Okay, good evening, everyone. Looks like we have a pretty full house tonight. And then I guess, we are here for happy moments. And then so I'm just going to get it started so we can get to the celebration, all right? So can everyone please stand for the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please take a seat. Okay. All right, so we're here to celebrate the Syosset athletes. And then so now we are going to have our athletic director, Mr. Stuber, to introduce all the wonderful athletes. Thank you. It's all yours.
Thank you and good evening. I'd like to thank the Board of Education, Dr. Rogers, Dr. Curry, and the entire administrative team for your ongoing support of the interscholastic athletic program here at Syosset. It is truly a pleasure watching so many of these great student athletes have the opportunity to grow, learn, and compete on behalf of the community. We have a lot of success stories to share with the community, so I want to start quickly, but I also want to bring up probably the most exciting news. For the second consecutive year, Syosset High School will be a school of distinction, that every single varsity athletic team was a scholar athlete team. And to do that, 75% of the roster has to have a grade point average of 90 or better. So there's only like 4 or 5 schools a year that get that, and it's a true honor. So at this time, we're going to start off with our winter sports and competitive cheerleading, and I'd like to introduce Zoe Abraham. Zoe Abraham was a 3-year varsity starter at cheerleading. She attended 3 national tournaments and was the captain of the 23-24 team. She was a vital member where the team truly looked up to her as a role model. Zoe was inspiring to all with an amazing personality and a smile that could get us through any tough practice or competition. And that is from Coach Lynch, who's not easy to please. Best of luck, Zoe. Congratulations. Zoe Abraham. I'm going to briefly talk about boys winter track. Coach Caffiero and his entire team are at the Nassau County Spring Award Ceremony. We have a tremendous team, and I'm just going to kind of highlight some of the outstanding performances. Joel Kim was the triple jump county champion. Jonah Kim was the pole vault county champion. Matthew Robotham was all county, and Matthew also earned all state federation honors at the state championship. So the boys track and field had another great year with a very young team. And we have a few of the members of the girls' winter track team here, and I'd like to ask them to come out. I'd like to introduce Kavra Santini and Mariam Sheikh. These young ladies are part of the first winter track county championship team for Syosset High School. It's a tremendous achievement. It's a if anybody had a chance to come here and see the state quals for spring track, it's really hard to win a county title. The girls' track team won their first title. This is from Coach Spiteri. Their first title this winter. It was all-around great team effort as we scored 46 points on the track and 43 points in the field. And we had a number of girls all finish high in the county. Huling Tan and Juliet Poitramol in the pole vault. Julia Amorelli in the weight throw. We had Gianna Lavaca, Juliana Ragosa, Brooke Alessi, and Sienna Como in the 4x8 relay. Lily Silvera, Melissa Teneri, Julia Shaughnessy, and Bryn Schneider in the 4x4 relay. Jess Alessi was the individual county champion in both the 300-meter and the 1,500-meter. She also received all county honors in the 1,000-meter. Nicole Wang was the individual county champion in the long jump, all county in the 55 hurdles. And Tracy Freeman was the individual county champion in the weight throw. So it was a really fantastic season. Congratulations. Next up, wrestling. Standing before you is 8th grader Lewis Kennedy, who is our only all-county athlete on the varsity wrestling team. Lewis had a tremendous county tournament. He ended up wrestling into the semifinals. Again, that is not easy to do. After a tough semifinal match, he had to win a couple more matches to place fifth. Again, only an 8th grader, and he's all county. Congratulations, Lewis. And it brings me great pleasure to introduce the Conference Coach of the Year for our boys basketball team, Coach Greg Cardona.
So first off, I just want to congratulate, we had 3 all-county players, Yassine Shaker, who's not here tonight, Will Pedinato, and AJ Abusab. They are all 3 seniors and great leaders for our program this year. Will Pedinato averaged 14 points per game this year, was the program's most improved player and one of our most consistent players the entire year. Yassine Shaker, who's not here tonight, averaged 17 points per game for us. And AJ Abusab was our leading scorer, second team all Long Island, and was also the player of the conference. These 3 players helped lead us to our 3rd straight conference championship, and this year we were 12-0 in conference. Congratulations to them.
AJ was also our John Pappas Award winner at our Seniors Awards night the other night. Congratulations, AJ. Next up, I'd like to introduce our fencing coaches, Coach Moon and Coach Vitisi.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having us. As you may or may not know, the fencing team had a heartbreaking season this year, with both the boys and girls losing the county championship by just 1 point. Although it was not the outcome we wanted, we still had a lot to celebrate, which is why we are here today, to recognize the accomplishments these extraordinary fences had this year, starting with 3-year veteran sophomore Alexa Lim, who was a medalist at the 2021-2022 Individual County Championship. She was selected to the 2022-2023 All-County team last year, and with a season record of 26-3, she has earned her spot at the 2023-2024 All Long Island All-County team. Congratulations. Next to her is 3-year veteran and co-captain sophomore Isha Nayak, who was selected to the 2021-2022, 2022-2023, and this year with a season record of 23-2, she has been selected to the 2023-2024 All Long Island All-County team for the 3rd straight year in a row, and was also the gold medalist for the 3rd straight in a row at the Brentwood Holiday Tournament. Congratulations. Making his debut, freshman Sohan Shah had a combined record of 17-2 and was instrumental in capturing the boys' 4th conference title and 4th undefeated regular season with a 10-0 record, earning a spot on the All-County team for the first time. Congratulations. Standing next to him is his older brother, 3-time veteran and co-captain Sajin Shah, was a medalist last year at the 2022-2023 Individual County Championship and took 3rd place this year at the 2023-2024 Individual County Championship. He was one of the starting fencers that went on to capture the Long Island Championship last year at Cold Spring Harbor, and with a record of 17-1, Sajin has now earned a spot on the 2023-2024 All Long Island All-County team for the first time. Congratulations. Last, but certainly not least, Isha's sister, Anika, we wanted to recognize her, who's a senior this year, who was selected to the 2021 and 22-23 All Long Island All-County team. She was named the year's Fencer's Fencer, an award voted on by her peers, by earning the respect of her fellow peers in the high school varsity community, fencing community. She was instrumental in winning the conference title last year with a 10-0 record and making it to the county finals this year for the first time alongside her sister Isha and teammate Alexa. She has been captain and leader the past 4 years and was back-to-back individual county champion, taking home the gold in 2022-2023 last year and this year 2023-2024 season. She's the last fencer on Syosset's inaugural year in 2018, and she will surely be missed by the coaches and team, and we wish nothing but the best as he continues his fencing career in NYU. Congratulations, everyone.
Congratulations. Next up, a team that comes every year because we keep winning the championship every single year. Our gymnastics team led by Coach Steve Salippo.
Good evening, everyone. I just want to say thank you to the Board of Education, Dr. Rogers, Scott Stuber, Dr. Durante, and the parents for all your support that you've given the gymnastics team over the past 7 years. It's always great to see the administration come and watch the team during their home meets. And lastly, I just want to say thank you to the principal of South Grove Elementary School, Ms. Jung, for hosting us every year. She's been fabulous, and I want to just make sure that she's represented as well. Thank you. So as we all know, this team has been around for 7 years now, and during those years, we have accomplished a lot. This year, we won another county championship, as Scott Stuber just said, which makes us the 5th time we've won. Thank you. We've been undefeated Conference 1 championships for 5 times as well, which includes a record of 64 wins and only 3 losses. Congratulations. With that, the girls have been awarded 7 years Scholar Athlete Team, and they've also been awarded All-American Team for the past 6 years, which is a very high honor. So congratulations to that as well. In the short amount of time of the last 7 years, we have had a total of 38 all-county qualifiers, 20 all-state qualifiers, and 33 all-American qualifiers. This year, we have 10 gymnasts on our team who've qualified for postseason. So congratulations, and I'm going to say their names in a second. So all-county this year is Avery Mark, which is a freshman. She's 2nd year on the team, and she's a starter on bars, and this is her 1st year being all-county, so congratulations. Reese Kaufman is also a freshman, and as well as her 2nd year on the team, she's an all-around starter, and this is her 2nd year as all-county, and her 1st year being awarded All-American. Alana Slade is an 11th grader, and this is her 3rd year on the team. She's a starter on vault and bars. This is her 2nd time being all-county. She's been all-state in the past, and this is her 2nd time being all-American. Congratulations. Taya Alexandru is a 10th grader, Sophie Weiskopf is a 12th grader, and Gia Ercolino is a senior as well. They couldn't make it with us tonight, but I want to congratulate them as all-county as well. And last but not least, we have 4 girls who qualified as all-state. Cameron Platt is a senior. This is her 4th year on the team, and she's been a starter as an all-around. And on top of all of that, she is the Nassau County floor champion this year. She has placed 3rd as an all-around at the state qualifiers, 5th place on vault. She's a 2-time all-county gymnast, a 2-time all-state gymnast, and a 3-time all-American gymnast. Congratulations. Vanessa Frullo is a junior, and this is her 2nd year on the team, and she's a starter on bars, beam, and floor. And she also is a Nassau County beam champion this year. Congratulations. She also placed 2nd second place on bars, and this is her first year as an all-state gymnast, and her first year as an All-American gymnast, so congratulations. Arlene Oesi is a 9th grader freshman. This is her second year on the team. She's a starter on bars, beam, and floor. She placed 3rd on beam. She's a 2-time All-State gymnast this year and last year, and she's also a 2-time All-American gymnast, so congratulations. Lastly, we have Leah Chin, which is a 11th grade student. This is her 3rd year on the team, and she's been an all-around starter all 3 years. This year, she placed 2nd place as the all-around, 3rd place on beam, 2nd place on floor, and 4th place on vault. She's a 3-time All-State gymnast, 3-time All-Long Island gymnast from Newsday, and a 3-time All-American gymnast. So congratulations to her as well. And before I leave, I just want to wish the seniors good send-offs to their colleges, and congratulations for being on the team this year. Great job, everyone.
You got that. Bunch of underachievers. Okay, at this time, it brings me great pleasure to introduce Newsday's Coach of the Year for our boys swimming and diving team, Coach Mike Cipollino.
Thank you. Well, it's a really great honor to be back here tonight talking about this team again. I'd first like to start with some thank yous. First off, very special thank you to Mr. Stuber and all of his staff, Nancy and Dorothy and the rest of the athletic department, for all that they do for not just our team, but all of Syosset Athletics and all of our student athletes. Thank you to Dr. Rogers, the Board of Education, and the entire community for all that they do to support swimming and diving at all levels in Syosset. You know, it starts with our Learn to Swim program, carries forward to the Stingrays program, onto the middle school, and then ultimately up to the varsity team. And all of those levels working together have really made a very big difference in our program. I'd also like to thank an incredibly dedicated coaching staff, assistant coach Mark Acuto, and our diving coach, Tom Cornelia, for all that they do. To all of our team parents, grandparents, and family members who sacrifice driving to early morning practices, late afternoon practices in our meets, and travel with us as a team, cheering us on wherever we go, giving us a home field advantage in all venues. And lastly, but certainly not least, I'd like to thank this group of our 36 varsity swimming and diving boys, athletes, who have made coaching on this team an absolute pleasure. They work so hard at practice, push each other in the meets, do so much, not just during the season, but in the off season, to come back better and better each and every year. You know, we're a program who's experienced a lot of success over the past series of years, and you know, for some it might be easy to sit back on your prior successes and give up the disciplines that got you to where you are. But with this group, every year they come back better, stronger, and their enthusiasm carries forward from one generation of swimmers and divers to the next. They help each other out. It's a team that swimmers want to be a part of, everybody wants to be a part of, and I'm really proud to have coached you gentlemen. Thank you very much. Our successes during the year, we've had tremendous individual successes, but tonight I'm just going to talk first about some of our team successes. And it took all of us pulling together as a group to bring these successes to fruition. This year, we celebrated our 9th consecutive Conference 1 championship, our 9th consecutive division championship, our 80th consecutive dual meet win, and ultimately reclaimed the county championship for the 5th time in 6 years. Congratulations, gentlemen. Then in the year of so many repeat successes, we had a new success that these gentlemen get to say that they were the first to bring to Syosset. For the first time in many, many, many decades, Nassau and Long Island swim teams came together for a single meet. It was the Long Island Challenge Championship, and the meet was scored Nassau County and also versus Suffolk County as 2 counties, but also they scored it as individual teams, and Syosset Swimming and Diving won the meet for the individual teams. So that's a big, big first for the program. Now I'd like to briefly recognize the all county athletes that we have with us here tonight. First, 8th grader Dario Zimbalati. Dario is one of the few athletes who can say that they joined the varsity program as a 7th grader last year, and he's continued to make incredible strides all along the way. He carries himself on the pool deck with the maturity of a high school veteran, and improved this year to placing top 10 in the county in one of his individual events, the 100 butterfly. Also, he earned the title of county champion in the 200 medley relay and helped push that relay team to the state championship meet. Congratulations, Dario. It's hard to imagine a freshman having a bigger, more impactful year than Reed O'Connell. Reed, in addition to qualifying for states in multiple individual events, being all Long Island award winner, he was also the only swimmer at county championships this year to earn the title of county champion in 2 individual events. Then he also went on to be county championship in the 2 relays that he was a part of, as well as being the anchor, the last person on our school record-breaking, and also county record-breaking 400 freestyle relay team. Congratulations, Reed. Jesse Namkoon, Jr. Jesse worked incredibly hard this past offseason, improving from where he was last season, being on the cusp of qualifying for counties in a series of events, to now qualifying and scoring in multiple county events this past season, including having an incredible swim in his 200 freestyle relay and helping to push that team to the state championship. Great job, Jesse. Now for our group of seniors. First I'm going to talk about Anthony Wong. Talking about somebody who really steps up. In the beginning of the season, we had an opportunity, before season started, over the summer, along with our girls team, we had an opportunity to participate in a Swim Across America fundraising event where both the girls and boys combined, we raised over $10,000 to help fight cancer. And at that event, before that event kicked off, it was the singing of the national anthem, and everybody was looking around. The event coordinators were looking around for somebody to step up and sing the national anthem. Everybody's eyes darted to each other, and then all eyes fell on Anthony. And with his great spirit, he showed that he's not just an incredible swimmer, he's got a great singing voice as well. So we all appreciated that. But he always goes the extra mile and is always willing to step up for his teammates. And I think that's been a big part of his success over the years, is wanting to do well, yes, for himself, but also wanting to be better for his team. He blossomed into one of our top sprinters on the team this past season and qualified for the state championship meet for the first time, pushing the 200 freestyle relay to that qualifying time. Great job, Anthony. Senior Alan Chu, he's one of our team captains, just a tremendous leader, always willing to go the extra mile for his team, has a great spirit. very fun-loving, but once he jumps in the pool, he's all business. And very selfless. At county championships this year, we asked him to swim some of his usual events, but then one event in particular where it might not have been his best event, an event that he still did very, very well in, but it was an event that we needed as a team for him to swim in so we could score enough points to win the championship. And he did that very willingly and with great enthusiasm. He's county champion in 2 relays, all Long Island, all state, and was a member of the county record-breaking 400 freestyle relay. Great job, Alan. Ethan Chan, another one of our team captains, he came into the season ready to succeed and ready to lead. For his entire time on the team, he's been a leader, a real standout. And right from our first home meet, he was already qualifying for state championships, really setting the tone for excellence for the rest of his teammates right from the early going. He's all Long Island, all state. He set the record in the 200 freestyle up at states in an incredible swim-off that also qualified him to be all state. And he was another part of the 400 freestyle relay that broke the county championship record, broke the county record. Great job, Ethan. And last but not least, Nicholas Yang, another one of our team captains. When it came time for Swim Across America, Nick stepped up right away to lead the boys' effort in participation and did a great job. He's always, again, willing to go the extra mile for his teammates, not just for his varsity teammates, but for the younger generation of Syosset swimmers and divers, helping out with the Learn to Swim and also the Stingray program. Somebody you can always count on. He's a state qualifier, both individually and as a part of 2 relays this season, and he was county champion in the 200 medley relay. Great job, Nicholas. Great job, everybody. Thank you very much.
Congrats, and I look forward to more success coming up soon. And as we are wrapping up our winter season acknowledgement, I'd like to introduce some members of the girls Nassau County Class AAA basketball team. Please come on out. I know it was a while ago, but there's a few things I'd like to acknowledge. First, this team worked hard for my 2 years here. I've been watching this team in the gym for 2 years. They are relentless. They get after it. The JV teams are always working hard. And we have 4 young ladies in here who are tremendous athletes and tremendous people. I'd like to introduce first some of our younger players who are returning, who I expect big things from. Defensive player, she's amazing on the court, is Ivy Matthews. And she might be quiet, but she works really hard in the gym, and she sets the tone for the team. Layla Abraham, another young lady. And they, these 2 young ladies are going to be a big part of our success next year. And we also have senior Victoria Fazolari. Again, Victoria is just the backbone of the team, does all the dirty work under the basket. Doesn't always get the accolades, but everyone knows that you can rely on her. And people don't realize that how hurt she was in the playoff run. This young lady played injured, and it actually took a toll on her spring season as she tried to recover, but tremendous grit. She's going to be successful because she just has that it factor, so congratulations. And we had 3 all-county athletes, and 2 of them couldn't be here today. They'll be back next year, so we'll see them soon. Kate Nelms, who's a standout volleyball player as well. Kate is a 2-time all-county player and a 2-time Defensive Player of the Year award. So Kate was, again, a successful athlete, but an integral part of this team, and we look forward to her senior year. And then we also had a special athlete, sophomore Sam Schneider, who also is a 2-time all-county player. She, again, just loves basketball. She's great on both ends of the court, and I know she will be back and help this team continue to defend their title. And we have a senior here who is, again, a great student, great athlete, finishing a career. She was not only a great three-sport athlete, which I think is something to celebrate in today's day and age, but she was, I'm going to actually just read what Coach Ferrer wrote down. Carly Greenbaum is an exceptional basketball player with an impressive resume that includes 2-time All-County honors, 5 years of varsity experience, and a distinguished role of the team captain her senior year. Her skill set is highlighted by her remarkable accuracy from beyond the three-point arc. Her impact extends far beyond her individual achievements. She embodies the essence of leadership, serving as a guiding force for her teammates, both on and off the court. Her dedication, work ethic, and positive attitude make her a role model for her peers, inspiring them to strive for excellence. So again, I know the whole team's not here, but it is an amazing achievement. We beat Baldwin. I'm looking for another county title next year. Congratulations. And as we segue into spring sports, I'm just going to make sure no spring track and field, right? We're going right to badminton. Yep. All right. Well, our badminton team's about to join us. Again, the track and field teams are at their awards dinner. We had tremendous success for both the girls. They finished second as a team, and the boys did really well. But we did have Matt Romothon, who won the state tournament and placed fourth, which is really an all-state athlete. So I know the track kids aren't here today. They unfortunately seem to miss a lot of these board meetings. Section 8 is open track meets, but again, a great season by both the boys and girls. And now I'd like to speak on behalf of our girls badminton coach, Coach St. John. The varsity badminton team had an incredible 24 season. As a team, we came in third in the county and only had losses to Great Neck South and Jericho this year. The Great Neck South team were not only county champions, but they went on to win the Long Island Championship as well. This was the very first time we've had all 11 varsity players earn all conference, and the first time ever Syosset had 6 all-county players. They include, at first doubles, we had Melody Ho and Sanvi Pari. At second doubles, Manya Prakash and Angelina Cow, who were not only both all-county, but they took third in the doubles tournament. And at second singles, Syosset crowned Mahida Rahabandi, all-county. And finally, our number one singles, we had Selena Chen earn all-county as well. Selena is the first 3-time all-county badminton player to ever come out of Syosset. Congratulations, ladies. Thank you very much. Our baseball is having their team, their award ceremony. We did have David Lieberman. He was only a sophomore. He was 7-0 this season. He pitched 4 straight complete games to earn all-county, and he did a tremendous job. So obviously the baseball team has a great pitcher coming up, and we expect a lot of great things. Moving on to boys lacrosse, and I'm going to introduce sophomore Brody Waxer. So Coach Calabria, his own child is having an award ceremony, and once in a while we do let someone go see their family. But I do want to talk about real quick David Desquay, a first-time All-County selection, a 3-year starter. He did a tremendous job. He was also All-American, so he was one of the best players, and he's going to be going on to Johns Hopkins. We have senior, not bad. And then we had senior Owen Acevedo, who was a 2-year starter, first-time All-County selection. Owen was, as Coach Calabria said, our heart and soul of our team. We had junior Will Cawley. He's a 2nd-year starter, first-time All-County selection. He also served as a captain. He has tremendous leadership skills on the field in every facet of the game, and we look forward to having him come back next year. And our sophomore sensation, Mr. Waxer, standing up here. I saved you for the last. He's a 2-year starter for us. He's a first-time All-County selection. He may be young, but he stepped into the leadership role this season and was always one of the hardest workers in the room. He'd been an integral part of the team offense, constantly pushing his teammates to become better every day, and we're looking forward to his continued growth as a leader on the team. And he's also a leader in the weight room, which I love to see because it's right outside my office. So again, congrats, Brody. And I love speaking into the microphone a lot, but I'm very excited to introduce Coach Christensen, to introduce the ladies of our girls lacrosse team who are all county.
Good evening. It's my pleasure to represent Coach Latora, Coach Soto, and Coach Murtha to talk about 4 of our very special young ladies. Girls lacrosse is all about family and tradition, and these are 4 of our best. The youngest of the crew, sophomore Julie Shaughnessy. Julie was our leading point scorer for our team with 68 points and is one of the top leaders in Conference 1. We are thrilled to have her back with us dominating for the next 2 years. Now for our 3 seniors. Senior Carly Greenbaum. Carly was our leading goal scorer this year with 41 goals. She was also the recipient of the John Pappas Award at the Senior Awards last week. Carly will be studying at the University of Texas next year, and we wish her all the best. Congratulations. Senior Leah Coffer. Leah's our grittiest player, a top 100 lacrosse player on Long Island this season, and ended the season with 54 points. Leah is headed to Binghamton University next year to continue her lacrosse career, and we're super excited for her. Congratulations, Leah. Senior Ava Seglia was our goaltender. She led the team with saves with 71, and was the backbone of our defense. She is headed to Lynn University next year, where she will also be continuing her lacrosse career. Congratulations, ladies. Thank you.
This gentleman, everyone knows who he is. He's the voice of Syosset's athletic program. I'd like to introduce Coach Dean Strohmeyer, better known as Stro, and our boys golf team.
Thank you, Mr. Stuber. Boys golf, these 5 gentlemen were all county this year. Our goal every year is to either compete or try to win or compete for the county title. We ended up finishing 3rd overall, which is an awesome achievement. Up there on the podium, you have Gavin Goldberg, to the left, Kyle Joe, Max Brotman, Damon Trevidi, and Dylan Tom. So day 1 of counties, actually the county tournament's a 2-day tournament, 36 holes. And to be all county, you have to finish top 30 in that tournament, day 1, to qualify for day 2. Okay, so we had five of the 30, we had 5 of the kids qualify. And we'll start with Gavin on the far side. Gavin shot 2 rounds of 77. He shot 77 day 1 on the blue course, 77 day 2 on the red course. The red course hosts Long Island Opens. It hosts New York State Opens. It's a very, very challenging golf course. So Gavin was 77-77. Kyle Joe next to him shot 80-83. Damon Trevidi shot 81-78 day 2. Max Brotman shot 79 day 1, 80 day 2. And Dylan Tong here on the left, day 1 on the blue course, shot a 3 under par, 69. That's a serious number, okay, if you know golf. Day 2 on the red course, shot 74. So for a 2-day total, he was 1 over par for a 2-day total of 143. And that finished 2nd overall in the county. The winner of the county tournament this year, his name is Jojo Dolezal, is going to go to St. John's to play golf. Up at States, he ended up winning the state tournament. He is a serious player. He's going to play at St. John's. Dylan Tong was right behind him. So. We have Dylan, a 10th grader, Damon, a 10th grader, Max, a junior, a senior, and Gab's a senior. So the first year, we're looking forward to having them back. Fantastic job. We had a great season. Thank you. Super, thank you.
Thank you. Congratulations. I was feeling really good about my golf game until I went and watched them play, and then I'm not feeling so good about it anymore. I'll stick to some of the small 9-hole courses. Next up, I'd like to introduce Coach Dave Anderson and our girls softball team.
So there's 4 all-county players. This is the first time in our program's history we have had 4 all-county players. We play in a very competitive conference. Everybody knows about Massapequa and Oceanside and Farmingdale and East Meadow. But this year we were 10-6 in our conference in Conference 1. And it really has to do with the 4 ladies to my right. They've been instrumental in turning around our program and changing the culture. So I'm going to go through each one of them with you. Alexa Plevrides is my senior. She's on the far right. She's a first baseman and a pitcher. She's been with me since 8th grade, and she has been instrumental as a captain to change the culture of the program. She's going to play at New Paltz, SUNY New Paltz next year. She's a 2-year All-County player in Conference 1, and she was also nominated in the beginning of the season as an All-Long Island player. She hit .419 with an on-base percentage of .500, and we're going to miss her for next year because it's going to be a huge loss without her. Nicolette Ferrero is a pitcher and an outfielder. She's a junior, and without a good pitcher, you're not going to compete in any conference in the conference that we play at. She's the first pitcher in a very, very long time to have 10 wins, and we beat Massapequa the first time in 20 years. Nicolette has pitched 109 innings with 115 strikeouts, and additionally, she had 2 walk-off game-winning hits, one to beat Farmingdale, which is a huge rival, and also Belmore JFK, and she's also already committed to SUNY New Paltz. Sienna Rennie is our sophomore shortstop. She's been on varsity since 7th grade, and I got to say, I think she's probably one of the best athletes I've ever coached, guys or girls. I really do. I've coached a lot of Division I players, and I think I tell her this all the time. I think she's better than the players that I coach. She is a 5-tool player with speed who hits for power as well as average. And she hit .358 with 12 RBIs and 13 stolen bases. And, when you watch her, the plays that she makes, a lot of shortstops in our conference would not be able to make. So I'm just happy for her that she made All-County this year. And then my freshman, who's on the far left, is Taylor Rennie. Taylor's been a varsity player since 7th grade. And just to give you some perspective, is already she has the record for stolen bases in Syosset history. So already she's approaching, after next year, she'll have 100 stolen bases if she keeps at this pace. So it's incredible. She's a two-time All-County player, and she's just been nominated to Newsday's All-Long Island First Team. She's the catalyst for our offense. She hit .443. She had an on-base percentage of .480, and she stole 20 bases. And I'm just happy that, I'm forward that, all these players will be coming back with the exception of Alexa, we're going to miss. But I think the future looks bright, and I'm excited about it. So thank you.
Congratulations. Good job. Next up is the head coach of our flag football team, Mr. Ray DeLuca.
Good evening. The girls' flag football team finished 12-4, went to the Nassau County Finals this year. We are honored to have 2 girls named to the Nassau County Conference 1 All-County team. First, we have Samantha Goldberg. She is one of our 2 seniors on the team. She was voted by the Flag Football Coaches Association as one of 23 All-County players in the county. A 2-year, 3-way starter for the girls' flag football team. She played receiver, corner, and also punted for us. She's a great athlete, player, leader, role model, and teammate, Samantha Goldberg. Next, we have Ivy Matthews. Ivy's instrumental in the girls' flag football team's success this year. She's been a leader on and off the field for the entire season. Iva's a junior this year. She's also a 2-year, 3-way starter for us. She's our quarterback, safety, and punt returner. She was unanimously named on the All-County team of coaches in the conference. She is a 2-time All-County player, Ivy Matthews. Congratulations, girls.
And before Simi walks out of here, I have to also share with everyone, she was the Connie Kulik winner for the most outstanding female athlete at Syosset High School. Tremendous athlete. Congratulations. And again, I want to thank you for sticking with us, but we are up to our last team that we're going to recognize. And I think a lot of us know this team because they get a lot of print in Newsday lately. They are consecutive, last 2 years, Nassau County champions, Long Island champions, and 2-time New York State Division I champions, led by Coach of the Year, Shai Fisher, our tennis team.
Good evening, members of the Board of Education, administration, community. I'm proud to talk to you tonight about some of the achievements in the boys tennis program this past spring. Some of our team accomplishments. Boys, you can come out one by one. I'm going to try to speed this along for you. I know it's been long, so. Nikki Shah. Captain, Vay Trivedi. Captain, Spencer Keshner. Ansh Jolly. Ian Mehta. Jacob Prince. Neil Chawla. Anik Paul. Big Dev, Devin Melandro. Shiv Chada. Leon Zhao. Terry Moore. Hayden Sutter. Grayson Prince. Cooper Steinberger. Reese Schwabish. Josh Kim. Brandon Munn. Max Wang. And Ryan Zhang. So coming off a year where the boys won the state title last year for the first time in Syosset history, let's just say expectations were high. But with lots of changeover with the members of the team from one year to another, some early season losses, a 4-2 start to the season definitely changed all of the outside expectations. Accompanied also with slogans like Syosset Demise and Start the Scio Fall Off, were all coming along our way. Add in early season injuries, as well as starting 8 different lineups in the first 10 matches, and the long-term success didn't look too promising. But if you were on the inside, you knew the talent that we had. In hindsight, all the instability in the beginning of the year brought our team that much closer together and only made everyone that much more motivated. The boys would go on to win their final 14 matches, which included a Nassau County championship over Roslyn, a Long Island championship over Comac, a state semifinal victory over Bethlehem, and finally another New York State title after defeating Mamaroneck, making history and becoming back-to-back state champions. Looking back, I feel that the team showed exceptional resilience, going through all the lineup changes and early season adjustments. And I'm sure our 2 captains, Vay Trivedi and Spencer Keshner, would tell you that it just made us that much better, more confident, and each team win that much more gratifying. It was truly a team effort, and congratulations once again on an amazing accomplishment, back-to-back New York State champions. And for our individual accomplishments, I mean, we could probably talk a lot more, but the two that really stand out, we had two boys earn all-state recognition in doubles, 10th grader Nikki Shah and 11th grader Devin Melandro. You ask any coach in our county, they'll say, you know, Nassau County is the toughest county for tennis. And these two boys not only won the Nassau County tournament last year, but won it again this year, earning all-state honors, a remarkable achievement that's rarely accomplished. The boys then proceeded to play at the National Tennis Center in Flushing, finishing 8th in the state. And they're only in 10th and 11th grade. I kind of said this a little bit last year. This team is still super young. Congratulations to both Devin and Nikki once again on your all-state achievements and being repeat Nassau County champions. And lastly, a few hours ago, they were named as part of Newsday's All Long Island team. Congratulations.
Again, be brief. I just want to thank the board and Dr. Rogers. Obviously, we had a lot of great successes this year. We're hoping for a lot more next year as well, but it would not be possible without the support of all the families and the community, so thank you very much. It's obviously a great place to be an athlete here. Thank you.
Congratulations again to all the athletes, and then thank you to all the coaches. And for the parents, if you want to make a graceful exit, now would be the time before we start our monthly Board of Education meeting. Thank you. Okay, all right. We are going to go straight into our agenda items. And then the first item on the agenda is the approval of minutes of May 13, May 21st, and May 29th, 2024 board meetings. Can I have a motion, please? Mr. Greco, seconded by Ms. Falco. Are there any questions? All in favor? Opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, and next we'll have Dr. Rufo to give us the Treasurer's report and appropriations adjustments. Dr. Rufo, all yours. Thank you.
Thank you. As indicated in the Treasurer's report, the cash on hand for the month end April 2024 was $92,057,155.99. It also shows that bank balances for all cash accounts were reconciled to the book balances and were collateralized in accordance with the district's banking agreements and investment policy.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Rufo. And then also, can I have a motion to accept Dr. Rufo's Treasurer's report? Dr. Park, seconded by Ms. Koshiar. Are there any questions? All in favor? Opposed? Any abstentions? And the next one is the approval of the appropriation adjustments. Can I have a motion, please? Mr. Greco, seconded by Ms. Falco. Are there any questions? All in favor? Opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. And the next one is the review of the, we'll have the, Dr. Rogers give us the superintendent's report.
Even though they've already left the room, I just want to add my congratulations to all of the athletes. Obviously, it is really enjoyable to be a part of their successes, and I'm really grateful to the community for providing many of the facilities that have made that success possible for the athletes. And it's one of my, I call it my second shift, but at the end of the regular day, I get the opportunity to go out and cheer for our athletes on the fields or on the courts or in the pool or in the gym, and it is so much fun to see them doing the things that they love to do, and seeing that they take so much joy in it that they want to excel and do the hard work that's necessary. And I am as proud as Mr. Stuber is of the fact that all of our teams were named Scholar Athlete teams. It means that they're getting the balance right between sports, academics, and athletics, and it means I hope that we're doing a good job of making sure that they have both of those priorities at the forefront. That kind of leads into the two conversations that I'll be going through with the board this evening. We're going to talk about a process that the board wants to revisit, needs to revisit. That is the process for selecting a new mascot. And just to, as a reminder, since it's been some time since we've talked about this, any school district in the state that has a Native American themed mascot is required to change that mascot and have eliminated that mascot and presumably decided on a new mascot no later than the end of the 24-25 school year, and to remove any representations of the old Native American mascot by the end of that year. So there's certainly work to do in the removal, but it would be best to do the removal in conjunction with identifying a new mascot and logo, so that we only do the facilities work once. So the board asked me several months ago to survey the other school districts that have gone through this process of transitioning from a Native American themed mascot to a different mascot, a successor mascot. And I shared with the board at that time that there seems to be a fairly typical series of steps that school districts go through. Generally identifying some sort of a group that's responsible for shepherding the process along, some sense of what you want the mascot to embody in terms of values or attributes, the importance of getting feedback from the community, and particularly the student community through surveys or other tools. And then I thought one school district, Weedsport, which is outside of Syracuse, did a particularly thoughtful job of coming up with a rubric that they would use to evaluate from the many candidate ideas that would come forth from the public, which ones might make the most sense for the school, and rubrics are always useful for ranking things. And so I credit them with being thoughtful about this, and I thought it was something that would be useful if we were to develop a similar rubric of our own. And then ultimately there has to be some sort of process for how you decide between the last remaining one or two most popular designs, and then how to prepare artwork that reflects that design. So if we were to pick some sort of representation at some point, someone needs to develop a logo, and typically a lot of school districts will use companies that do branding for school districts to help do the design at the end of the process. So that has been what has been typical of the districts that have done this, and I'm fortunate that I have a clipping service with news clippings from upstate as well as the local region, so I'm able to follow districts from as far afield as Weedsport and Canandaigua as they've gone through this process as well, to see how they've led their communities through this decision. I know the board's going to talk about that when you get to unfinished business, so I'll go on to the next topic. And that is the facilities. Obviously, for the last year, the board has been talking about the need for maintenance and repair to our facilities, things that were identified by our architects and engineers as having reached the end of their useful life and needing replacement, safety improvements and upgrades, and accommodating our enrollment increase. So through our conversations with the Board of Education, just again to recap where we are, the board obviously wants to address the maintenance issues and make sure that we have safe, accommodating, healthy facilities for our students and staff to learn and work in. We did go through a process of paring down those things that were in the annual visual inspections to the essentials. We have what are in the industry called portables. They are temporary structures that house classrooms. They were at one point in time used as expansion space, not just in Syosset, but in lots of school districts. But they are not permanent structures, and as they age, they show their age, and then eventually they need to be replaced. And then lastly, we've experienced sustained enrollment growth in the school district. I got some numbers in order to just put that growth into context, and we are the fastest growing school district in Nassau County over the course of the last 10 years. Syosset has grown 9.5% a year, and the county as a whole has actually gone down 4.5%. So, that puts into context that we are not alone, but somewhat unique in dealing with our student growth here. So, as I mentioned, the board gave us some yardsticks to use in terms of putting together projects for the board's consideration, the AVI work, making sure that we were doing the essentials, dealing with the portables, working on safety, working on parity between the buildings, which has been an ongoing priority of the board, and one that the board continues to revisit and chip away at parity between the buildings with each successive round of investment. And then in our conversations earlier this spring, the board wanted to remain within $100 million for Proposition 1. So this chart just illustrates, and it's impossible to read at this font size, almost impossible to read in print too, but these are the 56 districts in Nassau County ranked by their change in enrollment over the course of the last 10 years. The red bar at the top is all you really need to look at. That's the red bar for Syosset, and that's us at 9.5% growth. So there are really only a handful of districts that are growing in the county, but we are at the top of the list. So the board asked us to go and solicit feedback from the public on our draft proposal, and we had over 1,000 responses to our survey. We have digested those responses. We've put some of that information online. We've shared this with the board in previous meetings. I'll just summarize in order to lead us to where we are today. We had a number of requests from the public for additional scope of work, additional projects to be considered, again, to accommodate our growth, both in program and in enrollment. And we had lots of questions about how construction works for school districts, how the costs are estimated, what goes into those costs, how to keep construction safe, because we still have to operate school, and many of these projects can't be completed just in a summer, and how we go through and ensure that the public is getting value for their money with public bidding, transparency, and ensuring that we have price competitiveness as we go through that, and always the tax impact of what any borrowing will mean for the public. So with that said, we've made some refinements to the propositions that we initially put into, and these are the administration's refinements, based on the feedback that we've gotten from the board, based on the feedback that we've gotten from the public. We're also recommending one new item on this list is some building security enhancements. I don't want to go into details about what that would be because it would defeat the purpose of the enhancements, but we see an opportunity to continue to work on making our buildings more secure. And that's, again, something that the board is invested in with every round of investment that we've had. From the public feedback, from the conversations at the board meeting, a number of other proposals for additional projects have been discussed, and would look for a little bit of direction from the Board of Education in terms of how you wish to proceed with these recommendations. They're all familiar from our previous conversations, with the exception of artificial turf on the infields for the baseball and softball stadiums. I've been to quite a few this spring, and I've been approached by a number of parents on the sidelines asking if this was something that we would consider or could consider. I did consult with Mr. Stuber to see if these were just cosmetic upgrades or if there was rationale for why they would make some sense. And there are both safety and scheduling reasons for and labor cost savings, maintenance savings for considering them. So they are an investment at the front end, but you save labor and injuries over the lifetime of the infield. So it's something that, again, getting public feedback, we've been asked to consider. So with that said, at some point we need to get public approval for this, and I wanted to give the board a sense of, and the public of course, how quickly, once a decision is made, once we finalize what the scope of work will be, what we could anticipate as the earliest potential bond referendum vote date. And I say earliest because I'm certainly not committing the board to any course of action or any date, but rather just trying to give you a sense of what the timelines might look like. We did approach the County Board of Elections to see if voting machines would be available to rent. We typically rent from the County Board of Elections, and it seems likely that they will have machines available in September, but it also seems likely that they will not make them available in October because they're going to reserve the machines in advance of the presidential election in November. So it is permissible by law to rent voting machines from entities other than the Board of Elections. Municipalities are, all municipalities are permitted to do that, including school districts. So if we were to target an October and November timeframe, we would likely have to look at rental. So I don't know what the cost differential is between renting from the county or renting from a private vendor, but one way or another, we will have a way of holding the vote if that's something that the board wants to do on that time frame. So just some of the hard points in the scheduling is that with this particular project, the scope of it will require us to declare ourselves the lead agency and wait for 30 days before adopting a secret resolution. Once that 30 days has elapsed, the secret resolution can be adopted, and then there's a 45-day period before you can go before the public and have the actual proposition vote. So working backwards from those two dates, it gives you the dates that are here under these three scenarios. So I just chose the three board meetings that are scheduled, tonight's meeting and then the two meetings that are scheduled over the summer, to show you and illustrate where that would leave you in terms of a timeline for seeking public approval. So that concludes my report, and I know that you intend as a board to have a discussion. I'm happy to entertain your questions now or during your discussion, whatever is the pleasure of the board.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Rogers, for the presentation. Now, since we are having a discussion on facilities, we will we'll do that all together. So there's no legislative items, and then we're coming straight to the discussion items. So does anyone have any questions for Dr. Rogers after his presentation? Okay, Ms. Edmondson.
I have multiple questions. Would you like me to go one at a time? Okay. Well, regarding the mascot process, if we work backwards in timeline, after the decision, just
facilities first.
Just facilities.
Just facilities.
So sorry. I only have one question. So I understand budgets aren't unlimited, and I understand that we have great needs in our community, and I understand that Walt Whitman and Berry Hill have a population increase, and they have really big needs. But I also understand that, and I don't want to take away from that, and I fully see the need for those two gym additions. That being said, I'd like to discuss in terms of being equitable to the other elementary schools and their needs, and the limitations that those two elementary schools have been dealing with, which are totally valid, have been felt in other elementary schools in our district for many years. Whether it be that they don't have enough space in the all-purpose room, so they can't have recess in the gym, or they have a half stage, or they cannot accommodate the needs So I just want to, in terms of equity, how can we look at the gyms at the other elementary schools, and also in terms of need, how fast can we look at those to put into a different pot?
So the way I would look at this is Syosset upgraded the gym at South Grove a number of years ago, so South Grove is sort of in the lead in terms of elementary gyms. With this round of investment, you have the opportunity to have 2 more schools catch up to where South Grove is, and then in successive rounds of investment, you would, I presume, want to work on additional investments in gyms. So we'll look for guidance from the board in terms of calibrating how much of that work to do in the near term and how much of that, the immediate term, and how much of that work to do in the near term. So the proposal to air condition the elementary gyms that don't currently have air conditioning would obviously inure to the benefit of all the buildings. And then in terms of the additional gym space, in my mind, that represents square footage, and so I agree with you, the most pressing need for square footage is in the schools that are currently the most constrained for space. The opportunity to continue to work on improving elementary gyms and adding square footage, I think it's the right direction for the school district to go, and we would look to the board to give us direction on how quickly to get there. If you were to ask me to rank order the buildings that I would see as being in the next round and the next round of investment after that, in my mind, the next 2 buildings would be Bayless and Robbins Lane, and then the next 2 buildings after that would be Village and Willits. Village and Willits being in the 3rd round in my mind because they're the buildings that are losing enrollment at present. But as I've shared with the board before, it's my belief that enrollment is cyclical in the elementary buildings, and so I don't think it's that they will never rebound in terms of enrollment, but they seem right now to be the furthest out time-wise from rebounding in enrollment. And with any investment in square footage, the board is addressing how the buildings have changed over time. So even 15 years ago, the buildings didn't have the level of investment in speech therapy and occupational therapy and physical therapy and the need for additional spaces for those classrooms. The buildings, educational space is programmed differently now than it was 15, 20 years ago, and all of that has become more space intensive. So our buildings were obviously designed in the 50s and 60s, a completely different kind of programmatic design around the building. So as we add square footage to any of our buildings, it allows us to accommodate these kinds of programs that are offered, not just in Syosset, but in every school district. So you are in a school district that clearly has a square footage need, and if you ask me to prioritize where those square footage needs are greatest, it would be first at Berry Hill and Walt Whitman, then at Robbins Lane and Bayless, and then at Village and Willits after that.
Sorry, just to follow up that, so because, which I understand, Walt Whitman and Berry Hill have the greatest increase right now and need it right now, which is, I fully understand and I'm on board with. Is there ways we can work with the other schools to make it a more equitable opportunity even within the confines of their schools? So for instance, if this allows indoor recess for Berry Hill and Walt Whitman because they have the space, is there a way we can work with the schools and their scheduling to allow for indoor recess for some of the other schools that still have space constraints? Because not that that's the only issue, but it is an issue that affects children. Sitting in a classroom for recess time it just doesn't have the movement and the break that they benefit from.
Yeah, we're always happy to revisit that. I would defer a little bit to Dr. Curry, who is closer to elementary scheduling than I am in this role. There are still ultimately some limitations that we can't get around with creativity. You know, if we've exhausted the square footage, we've exhausted the square footage. And the board has talked in the past about some of the limitations in our elementary buildings around cafeteria space and other kinds of ancillary spaces, again, because they were designed in the 50s when a lot of kids went home for lunch. And the buildings just weren't built to accommodate the entire student body staying for lunch every day. And so we do shifts and things like that, but the shifts make it difficult to have an all-purpose room available for things like recess, unfortunately.
Ms. Falco?
So there's a couple things there's a couple issues that I think there might be one solution for. So I fully agree with Lynn that I am concerned. I 100% think that Berry Hill and Whitman need all the things that we're proposing. So that's not an issue for me. I absolutely think that we should do that. But I do think that it's very important that we have equity among the other schools, and there are other schools that have been dealing with similar issues, and that they need to be addressed as well. And as I sat for the last hour watching the wonderful sports teams and all their amazing accomplishments, it occurred to me that as our population grows and grows, that means there's going to be more and more and more kids who don't have the opportunity to take part in our wonderful sports program, because the number of children who are available for the teams doesn't change, but our population is growing and growing. So that means that there's more and more kids who don't have an opportunity to take part in those programs. And I think that something that would be important, because a lot of people have expressed to me outside that they are very disappointed that their children don't have an opportunity to take part in the sports program because they weren't competitive enough to make the elite teams, is that if we add maybe Robbins Lane and, was it Bayless that you said, to Proposition 2, and we make those gyms the way we're making Whitman's gym big enough for the high school to come down and use it for sports, so it will serve dual purpose. So the elementary school will have it during the day, but we'll get increased gym space for the high schoolers and the middle schoolers, that it would be wonderful if we could maybe take Robbins Lane and Bayless and make those new gyms big enough and maybe dedicate them to club sports, so we could have teams that aren't necessarily competitive and elite, but can give the rest of the school community an opportunity to take part in that. And fully agree that Berry Hill and Whitman obviously need to come first because they have the most pressing needs, but that's not going to happen. That's not going to come to fruition for 2 to 3 years. And so if we first wait until we're all the way done with this, the other schools aren't going to get additional gym space for 7 to 10 years. And that's a long time for our growing population to not have access to those sports and for those kids to still deal with all those other issues. So I think it's important for equity purposes and for potentially giving all those other kids an opportunity to our athletics to think about our timing now and to maybe add maybe 2 other gyms onto it, and then we'll add the other ones on in the next rounds after that.
Just a comment, since it wasn't a question. So when we designed the space, the site at Berry Hill is constrained by the fact that there is a pretty steep slope on the back of the building, and so the sizing of the gym there would be an elementary school appropriate gym. But for the Whitman site, the site is more level, it's closer to a parking lot, the parking lot is better. We currently rent in the wintertime when we're space constrained. We'll rent off-site locations because we are so constrained for gym space on the high school campus. So the idea was to make it possible to have, let's say, a high school-sized basketball court operate there so that we had something off-site. I'm intrigued by your idea of using more gym space for intramural or club type opportunities. We've talked about intramural opportunities before as a way to make sure that more students have access to sports if maybe they're not as competitive, or maybe they don't want to put in the time investment that a varsity team would require because they want to prioritize research or some other goal of theirs. So the idea of having more spaces that could be used for that just gives us more flexibility in terms of how to program them. The only constraint would be really figuring out the busing. So we'd have to work on that.
Anyone? Ms. Koshia?
Just continuing on to this part of the conversation, is there an option for the gym space at the elementary schools to not be built brick and mortar, but be built in a different way that would last? Obviously, we don't want to build something that's going to be, not good in 5 to 10 years down the road, but is there something that can be built as opposed to brick and mortar that would give a long enough lifespan but less money, so it's not costing, let's say, $5 million to build an individual gym? That's my first question.
Right, so I'm going to ask the folks from H2M to be on deck to answer some of that question. So the estimates that we gave you were for a Butler building, which is different from traditional construction. So the Butler building, at the very beginning of this process, we talked about a dome, an air-supported structure. And the recommendation from, again, for cost purposes, the recommendation from our architects was to consider a building that was in between an air-supported dome and brick and mortar kind of construction, Butler building. So this is a steel frame supported fabric structure. So there are a lot of advantages to this particular structure. It's modular. You can extend it later more easily than you'd be able to extend a traditional construction building. They still are permanent buildings. They look handsome. They operate like permanent structures, and they have some advantages over air-supported fabric structures. So I'll let them go into the rationale for why this was the right choice for us for these. And for these two elementary buildings, we had originally estimated it for you as brick and mortar construction. I asked them to go back and re-estimate these as Butler buildings for the two elementary schools. And neighboring school district, Oyster Bay, has one of these Butler buildings for a gym. So Megan or Kevin, if you'd like to just take us through the advantages of one of these structures. I just want the microphone to be on because in case somebody's watching the stream, I don't want them to miss out on what you have to share. But try it again and we'll see if it's operating. I'll tell you what, start with the board, and then once the microphone starts working, I'll ask you to just summarize what you went over.
So, oh, there we go. The benefit of the Butler building or the Legacy building is that it doesn't have the same warranty as a brick and mortar building, obviously. Again, we've talked about this in the past where it really makes a difference on the upkeep, and Syosset does a very good job keeping their buildings up. So it becomes more cost effective to have this prefabricated structure, which really, again, the Butler building is a prefabricated engineered metal structure with a skin around it, and the same thing with the Legacy building, which again is a prefabricated metal structure. Most of it is constructed off-site and then kind of put together on the site. But the fabric itself is permanent, but also at some point, I believe there's about, and I unfortunately I don't have the information exactly, but I believe it's a 20 to 30 year warranty. But the fabric can be replaced, which is intended to be replaced, but the structure should be intact. So it is a cheaper option, but also as long as the maintenance is well kept, it should last a very long time.
And just, I know you went through this exhaustively with us, but things about the insulation of the building, the comfort of the building, the air conditioning of the building, how does all that work? It's
Relatively the same. We have to meet energy code with any of those buildings, whether it's brick and mortar, whether it's Legacy, whether it's a Butler building. Regardless, we still have to meet all that energy values that we need to meet with any other building, and the same thing with the comfort level of fresh air and also HVAC. So it will have to be tempered just like a regular building.
So our conclusion was this was a cost-effective way to achieve the square footage needs that you have. They do have a very, what I consider to be a long lifespan, and in my mind, whatever fabric we're purchasing today, the fabric to replace it 25 years from now is going to be better in every way because technology will be better in every way. So at whatever, the steel will not be replaced, the steel is permanent, and at some point in the future when the time comes to replace that fabric, you'll have an even improved structure over the one that you have now.
Okay, so that's in all three of the buildings, the high school and the two elementary gyms are going to be that structure. That's the proposal. And also on the gym space for the high school, there are bathrooms included. I'm assuming those would be brick and mortar then on the outside of this structure?
That's correct. The bathrooms would be brick and mortar construction. We've gone through, I think, 3 different floor plan designs for those. And I had some questions about how the two structures marry together to make sure that it's watertight. Maybe you could just go through how you address those kinds of questions.
So, like you said, it is a brick and mortar. That, in speaking of the high school building, which is the legacy building, which is a fabric, that is tied in with flashing. So there is a detail to make sure that that ties in really to a similar degree without getting into the details or the technicality of it. The same way that your house would be tied into a roof. So that flashing is still forcing all that water to the outside of the building, and it's sealed up pretty well.
Doing more? I have a couple more questions. You want me to continue to go, or is that okay? Okay. Just a generic concern. I would love to do the vote in September, but I'm concerned that the earliest date would be September 5th, and with the month of September being so crazy, I'm afraid of that timeline. But I don't know how everybody else feels, but I would love to have the vote sooner rather than later. Bear with me 1 second, sorry. As far as adding the turf field to the HBT track, are we planning within this proposal number, is it also planned to run the same way we did it on the turf field at the high school? Is there going to be like the conduit run underneath the field? So in the event we were going to put lights, that would already be set to go. Are there lights that are already, I'm assuming no, but are there lights included in this proposal?
So in order, yes, no. So yes, we would run conduit under it. H2M shared with us their feeling that not running conduit would be malpractice. It's such a small cost, and it preserves your ability to make choices down the road. Obviously, we made a choice several years after building the high school field to add the lights afterwards, and it simplified things having the conduit there. So I'm glad we made that choice. I'm glad they gave us that advice. I would follow that advice again a second time. Just to recap, the lights here were about an $800,000 project, so it's not included in the cost of the field, but it's something that the board could consider in the future. With both the turf infields for baseball, which I appreciate better now, and the lights, the consideration there, and even the 2 additional courts at the tennis complex at the high school, is really about scheduling. So the additional 2 tennis courts meant that they didn't have to run matches sequentially. They could run all the matches simultaneously. So each match took half as long, and the kids got home earlier. So by having the lights on the main turf field, we're able to schedule games later into the night, which means we might have more than one thing run in an evening. Basically, it's like getting more days in the week for the facility. So if we find that, and maybe it's because of intramurals or some other kind of use that we would benefit from having an extended season of use of the HBT turf, then you would consider adding lights there, because like getting a second shift on the field in the evening. So you get 2 shifts a night instead of just 1.
I just have one more question to ask. On the proposal for Proposition 1, the elementary playgrounds, is that including the moving of the playground at Village School? Could you just talk for a couple of seconds about what that would include?
What we were originally looking at is Again, going through investments and rounds with the buildings. So some of the playgrounds equipment is earlier than others, is newer than others, more recent than others. So we would go through and the oldest playground equipment would be replaced. So we're on kind of a replacement cycle with those. We do have plans to move the playground equipment at Village and extend the parking lot that's in the front. And there is also a parking lot on the side. And so when we eventually remove the portables, the parking lot on the side would be extended into the place where the portables are now. So it would result in some additional parking at Village. So the portables, both for construction purposes and also because having the parking would be useful, are located at the opposite end of the building. They're at the east end of the building. So that frees up that space on the footprint to use for additional parking.
Okay. Dr. Art, looking at the referendum schedule, would you be able to tell us with the different scenarios how it's going to affect the start time of various projects in terms of are we losing one summer or are we getting one, a couple of months and stuff like that? I think this will help the board, think about how to restructure the board, structure.
Yeah, it's a good question. So obviously the best time for us to do work is during the summer. There are some projects that can't be completed in a summer, so you're going to do them during the school year no matter how hard you work to try and get to a summer. I'll ask H2M to talk about which projects they think they can get drawn most quickly and up to the State Education Department and approved most quickly, and what the timelines would be. I think we'll see some of this work begin if there's a bond approval in, let's say, September. I think we could see some of this work begin even as soon as the summer of 25, and then most of the work begin in the summer of 26. But Megan, Kevin, if you'd like to just outline for us. I know it won't all happen instantaneously, so just walk us through your sequencing.
So we would work with the district to prioritize what is the most important to get up. The fastest ones would be roofing, repointing, and some of the annual visual inspection work. We would need to be mindful of the SED review times. Right now, they're about 26 to 28 weeks. So planning that out based on the approval, going through that time period to put the drawings together, and then waiting for approval, and then going through the bid process, it may be tough to do summer 25, summer construction.
And how about for example, for scenario 2 or even 3 for October and November, and then for the bigger construction projects and how that's going to affect the timeline?
I would say it's the same based on that. It's going to push it maybe a couple months based on the approval, but same would be for all 3 schedules. We wouldn't be able to make a summer 25 construction period.
And just to go back and talk about our plan for how to do the portables, replacing the portables, we intend to use modular structures, and the advantage is that site work and construction can proceed in parallel because the modulars will be assembled off-site. So instead of having a 2-year construction timeline, we shorten that to a 1-year construction timeline, but we still have a 1-year construction timeline with all of the portable replacement projects.
Mr. Greco.
I have some comments, and I'll try to limit it to 2 questions. So my understanding is, and I could be wrong, that when we're talking about Berry Hill and Whitman and the gym space, what we're really talking about is investing in square footage, not necessarily gym space. It will be gyms, but the goal here was to address the enrollment concern, and whether we add cafeterias or more classrooms, we'd be having the same effect. And I just want to make sure that that's your thinking when you recommended this, is that these were the 2 schools you were focused on based on enrollment, and this was not necessarily trying to adjust the need for gyms. Because I agree, well, 6 of the schools could use gyms.
Yeah, I credit Ms. Bellato with having this idea of by replacing the gym, you free up the space inside the building where the gym currently is. That space could be repurposed for, let's say, a cafeteria. So particularly at Whitman That cafeteria is the smallest of all the elementary buildings, and it causes some constraints. They have to run multiple different sessions of lunch in order, not as many kids can eat together at the same time, so there's some social impact to that. But there's also a real scheduling impact in the building because that really small all-purpose room is used for that all the time. So having an open gym space would probably be used partially as cafeteria, partially as kitchen, partially as music room. It frees up square footage from elsewhere in the building. But the short answer to your question is yes. This is a square footage solution because the square footage added by the gym frees up the square footage of the existing gym for other purposes that eases the square footage constraint in the building. And the same plan, that same sort of series of dominoes would be in effect for Berry Hill as well. Adding a gym would free up the existing gym, which would free up some space in the cafeteria to be a music room or other kinds of classroom programmable space.
So to Ms. Falco's point, which is a really valid point regarding athletics in general, district-wide, right? There's clearly club teams we're missing because of our limitations on space. So overall, your recommendations for these two propositions give us a large gym at the high school without any gym being removed, 2 gyms at elementary schools, arguably one of which could be used district-wide, air conditioning in gyms, which I don't think remedies that issue unless you're talking about warm month sports, and the turf field that now we're talking about 2 turf fields and a track. That sounds like, this is $30-something million, $36 million for gym and gym-related work. It sounds like it will take care of a lot of that problem. And what I'm not hearing from you, and I didn't hear from you in response to Ms. Falco, is that you're comfortable recommending to us that it will address a lot of those concerns, that we will start to have enough gym space to do the kind of things we want to be able to do.
So I'll be unequivocal. It'll make it better. I don't want to overcommit and say how much better it will make it, but just having the additional gym space at the high school will bring us more in line with the peers. I shared with you at a previous meeting some of the benchmarking that we did against peers, and it will provide you with more space that you can program in different ways. So, and it will also ease other kinds of challenges. I know that there was frustration over the ticket limitations for the HBT moving up ceremony. The new gym will be larger than the existing gym at the high school that the ceremony was planned for, and the ticket limitations would not be as bad. So having that larger space lends itself to lots of things that the district would put into place immediately. Having gym space at any of our campuses that could be programmed for use by athletes, middle school, high school athletes, will ease the congestion that exists in the buildings right now. The only reason why I hedge a little bit is because the elementary day ends later than the high school day, so I just need to think through the club time of the day and late busing and then elementary busing and then how we would work the busing out to make that happen. But I would much rather have the square footage to be able to, and then work backwards to figure out how to get into it, than to not have the square footage and not have any option at all.
So obviously, we started talking about this a while ago, I think as early as July. And we're at a point right now where you're asking us to finalize a scope of work so you can start this process. And what I'm hearing is we probably can't start the work in the wonderful construction summer months, but every month matters at this point. So, I'm in no interest of rushing, but, you're presenting us your recommendations based on, we've pushed you back and forth, get more feedback from this group of stakeholders, go to the principals, so on and so forth. It doesn't sound like you're telling us you haven't done all that, and it sounds like you're telling us you have, and this is sort of your best plan at this time. And I'm just wondering what else do you need from us tonight? Are you looking for us to just approve this plan of work, or can we, if we think about it more, are we going to be set back another month or another 2 months? Is there any way to get this done? You know, we can't approve just Proposition 1 tonight and then let you know what Proposition is 2, you know, next month. Is there any other way to speed this up? You know, even if it meant, I guess, having a meeting just to approve a plan of work. I just want to throw the options out there because I don't want to leave tonight without some concrete schedule for getting this, you know, out for a vote.
Right, so I would say, from our perspective, we work for the board. So you ask me for recommendations, I give you my best recommendation. The sooner is better financially as well, because obviously inflation will eat away at the costs of all these projects over time. And we reached our high water mark in terms of state reimbursement last year, so it's only gone down a teeny bit, but I worry that we've crested and it could go down further in the future. The good news is that interest rates also appear to have crested and are starting to come down, but I don't know that interest rates will fall faster than our state reimbursement might fall. So the risk I would take is to stay closer to our high water mark of reimbursement from the state, even though it's a little bit of a high interest rate environment now. So if you wait, you have inflation and lower state reimbursement, but potentially lower interest. If you go quicker, you have higher state reimbursement, lower cost, and the only thing that works against you is interest rates. So again, you have 2 out of 3 good, better for now, 1 out of 3 better for later. So my recommendation is go with 2 out of 3 better for now. I don't wish to push you if you feel you need more time to consider what projects to have in Proposition 2, but the sooner we move, the sooner we can get this question in front of the public and the sooner we can get our work started.
Ms. Falco?
So Brian brought up a good point that I just want to clarify. I understand Berry Hill and Walt Whitman are out of space and they have the biggest space constraints. So the extra building the gym frees up space internally to make room to solve the other issues. How do the other elementary schools fall in space? Do they all need space, or are the other ones, you know, you said Robbins Lane and Bayless were next on your list. Are they facing the same problems that Whitman and Berry Hill face, just not to the same extent, or are they totally fine on space?
So I think every building principal would come before you and ask for more space, period. Village and Willits are in a steeper enrollment decline right now than Bayless and Robbins Lane are. Both Bayless and Robbins Lane peaked a couple of years ago. When they peaked, they were tight. Robbins Lane had over 500 students. Bayless was literally out of classrooms. If we split another classroom, we wouldn't have been able to program the building the way we do. So, but Bayless has lost over 60 kids since then. They've kind of crested and fallen. So both buildings would benefit from being able to have more square footage for things like potentially indoor recess or physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech therapy, you know, more spaces for programming, smaller group interactions among students. That's where the new space constraints in buildings have come from, the additional resources that we've put into supporting our kids through our PBS programs. So the constraints on Robbins Lane and Bayless are not as great as the space constraints on Whitman and Berry Hill. They're just the next 2 buildings that are not as tight, but they're tight. And then Village and Willits are not as tight as those 2. So if you're just asking me to rank them on where they are square footage wise, Berry Hill and Whitman are essentially out of space. The next 2 have a little bit of elasticity in their space, and then the 2 buildings that have the most elasticity in their space, Village and Willits.
I know you've given us this information before, but I can't recall off the top of my head. In terms of, you know, if Robbins Lane and Bayless, which are the next 2 that are tight, are dropping in population, how long do you guys predict until they're coming back up? Like, how many years do we have?
So as you know, we hired a national demographer to help us do enrollment projecting because we saw some things that are very unusual post-pandemic. In the summer of 2021, our population increased almost 5% just in the summer. So that obviously got our attention. Then right now we have a very light kindergarten class, not zero, but lower than what we're accustomed to. So even after the heavy summer in 21, we didn't want to make any dramatic changes based on 1 year's worth of data, and I feel the same way about this year's light kindergarten class. The summer of 21 proved that it wasn't going to happen again, and I don't know what will happen with kindergarten next year. We only know what's happening with it this year. So I fall back to the demographer's plans based on that. So the demographer shows both of those buildings essentially remaining flat for the foreseeable future. They projected out through the year 2030. So what I've observed is that the buildings seem to be on a 7 to 10 year cycle. So what happens is people move into a home, their kids are in elementary school. For 5 years, those kids are elementary school kids. And then for 3 years, they're middle school kids. And then for 4 years, they're high school kids. And then if the family moves after the kids graduate, that's when the home turns over and becomes an elementary home again. So when you see a number of homes in an elementary catchment zone move into middle school and high school, it's not that families no longer live there, it's just that elementary families have aged out. And that leads me to think that, you know, you have siblings or whatever, but it's 7 years outside of elementary school. So every 7 to 10 years, you see that the surge come back. So I think that's the cycle that I would look at in terms of thinking about the timelines.
I guess what I'm trying to figure out in my head is if we wait, if we don't add, let's say Robbins Lane and Payless to Proposition 2 for their gyms, but we know they're next down the line, and that next down the line isn't going to be, we're not going to do another bond or proposition like this for, let's say, 7 years, and they're not getting gym space, like it won't come to fruition till, let's say, in 10 years, are they going to be at the point where they're bursting at the seams and it's going to be a problem? That do we have enough time to wait till the next cycle to do them, or do we need to do them now because it's going to be a problem in 7 years, if that makes sense?
It does make sense, and I can give you a definitive answer if I can start my sentence with if. So if the demographer's projections are accurate and they stay level, then the first thing that will happen is that we will start to use up the elasticity in the buildings before they are tight. So if the demographer's projections of 7 years of level are accurate, then it will probably take 3 years to exhaust that elasticity that's in the building. That's your 3-year lead time that you would need to build space, square footage to accommodate it in the same way that you're considering square footage to accommodate the growth in Bayless and Berry Hill. So part of the challenge with Bayless and Berry Hill was that they didn't do what the demographers suggested. And much of that 5% enrollment jump that we saw really hit those two schools harder than other schools. So, but if the demographer's projections are accurate, then yes, you do have enough time because you will see the turnaround in enrollment and you will have the cushion of the space that exists in the building as your time window to go build the space that you'll need to accommodate the growth later.
I will go back to the gym question, but I'm very glad that Lisa brought up getting information, comments from the building principals. And I was surprised to read that we still have OT, PT, and speech therapy spacing issue in our buildings. I think that takes precedent over gym. And I was wondering what other important things are we overlooking. I think that needs to be addressed before we take care of the gyms. And also, there was conflict of arrangement in terms of the robotics. We have it already planned for guidance and robotics configuration, but the building administration would like that to be closer to the music section. Was it? So are we addressing that at all? The comments that were brought in by the principals, are they getting addressed in this proposition?
So we've worked with the principals all along from the beginning. So the principals are part of the walkthroughs when we talk about what's necessary for the buildings with the visual inspections. We have these conversations with the principals at their meetings. And so particularly with these larger projects, we've met with the building teams to get their feedback on the projects and how to program them. Our job as the central administration is to try to calibrate between needs and wants. So there will always be more wants than needs. And so, the boards, from early on in this project, some of the board's constraints on us were to hit a target number. With the AVI work, the board asked us to pare it down to bare essentials. So from all of that, what I take is the board wants us to invest in what's necessary to make the program feasible, not necessarily what would make the program optimal. So the idea, and it's a clever one, that the building administration came up with at the high school was to do a series of domino moves in the building where the robotics would go to where the family consumer science rooms are, the family consumer science rooms would go to where the library is, the classrooms that we were hoping to get out of the library would have to come from somewhere else, not really fleshed out. And the gain from that is moving a robotics room closer to the tech rooms. So there's certainly an advantage to that, but the robotics room has been where it is right now and for quite a long time, and they've been successful with the program. The challenge with moving the family consumer science rooms is that they'll require commercial grade appliances, and you'll have to have commercial grade plumbing, electrical, all put into a wing of the building that doesn't have any of those services right now. So to me, you don't get any new program, but you would get a tremendous investment in terms of millions of dollars in order to do that. But it wouldn't give you a single additional class or anything that you don't already have right now. So it's hard for me to recommend that level of spending to the board or to the community, because unlike with the gym, where we will certainly be able to illustrate how that adds to the program, just moving the rooms around the building to make walking from one space to another a little more accommodating, it's a hard place for me to recommend spending that kind of money. If it was small money, it would be worth considering, but it won't be small money, it will be big, big money. And your point about the OTPT is well taken, and actually that is what the gym accomplishes. So the additional square footage for the gym frees up the existing gym space, and that in turn frees up, let's say at Walt Whitman, space to do speech therapy might be part of how we reprogram what is currently a cafeteria.
That comment didn't come from Walt Whitman, but it came from South Grove. And we're not addressing South Grove.
So, as I said earlier, all of the buildings would love more space for ancillary kinds of programs.
OTPT speech therapy. So students who need those services require even smaller setting, quieter place. And I think that's something that we really need to address. And also, if we're talking about what is more cost effective in order to increase and make it more efficient and make more space and be cost effective, like in Walt Whitman, it will be more cost effective to build classrooms than build gym and then change the gym into all-purpose room and then all-purpose room into the classroom, right? So if we are applying that concept of be cost-effective, increase the square footage, then that also has to be applied to all schools, right?
Yeah, I don't disagree. I'm going to ask Dr. Curry to talk a little bit about how the services are provided right now. So I want to just explore your idea of only creating classrooms, let's say at Walt Whitman. So the square footage for the cafeteria is much less, it's essentially inadequate. So only creating classroom space will not solve that problem. It won't solve the problem of the fact that it's an interior gym. It won't solve the challenge that they have with being able to program specials. It won't solve the problem that they have with speech, OT, et cetera, being on the stage, those kinds of things, because the classroom's not, you don't need to build a whole classroom in order to create a speech suite. So it actually is a cost-effective approach, and you get a better gym situation in the bargain by creating gym space and then using that to free up square footage in the rest of the building that can be reprogrammed more effectively. So I don't think that it is building a gym for a gym's sake. It is building a gym to solve multiple problems because it frees up square footage elsewhere. So I do think it's a cost-effective approach because it solves a lot of problems at the same time. And if all you were to do is build the classrooms, you would still have these other problems to solve at some point in time. Dr. Curry, could you just talk a little bit about the other buildings and where we're tight on therapies?
Sure. In some of the buildings that have the higher enrollment, and not necessarily higher enrollment of students, but enrollment of students that require services, the principals and their staff have been very creative in finding those spaces. Sometimes they are shared spaces based upon what therapies are being provided and when those provisions don't have to be isolated, for example, requiring that there be privacy and so on. So, but where that requirement is in place, then accommodations have been made. Optimally, it would be wonderful if we could provide each therapist with their own sacrosanct space, but currently we don't have that. To the point of the domino effect, once there is more gym space, then there'd be opportunities for physical therapy to be provided perhaps in a gym setting when that facility is available, freeing up the classroom that they might be using now, which then in turn would allow for the other therapists to have more independent individual space. But we're working very well with the constraints we have, and while they're not optimal, the therapists are wonderful at working with one another, working with the classroom teachers, and finding schedules to provide for these therapies, all within the realms of the requirements, meeting the student's IEP and 504 plan. But having additional gym space would provide that domino effect for releasing the other spaces that the gyms would therefore they would bring in, thus releasing the other spaces that we could redistribute the various therapy classes. Thank you.
Mr. Ostrick.
Thanks. So we were tasked with a couple of things in fulfilling your request, Dr. Rogers, right? Originally, you came to us in January of 2023 with a demographic study. I think that's about the right timeline. And then from there, the facilities discussion came, and there have been a series of discussions over the last 18 months around the facilities. You came to us for high-level, strategic-level guidance. How much money? Give us a priority set that you should optimize to in terms of categories of spending, and let me come up with a plan about how to solve those problems. So we gave you a value set, which was the BCS first. You then refined that BCS requirement to things that were only required in the next 5 years that we could fulfill. and then after that it was health and safety, and then after that it was managing the enrollment. The thing we're not talking about in the room yet, and I haven't heard it come up yet, is dollars. Originally, we had a target of $100 million. At that point, my collar got a little tight, but I could sort of live with that number. Now we're up to $125 million, plus or minus. A couple of things have been added. Again, most of them are health and safety related and things related to managing the enrollment growth. So you have optimized a plan that you have sought feedback from us, from the buildings, from the community, from the other parts of the administration. You've answered a half a zillion questions. You chased the architects for more information. We have now gotten to the point where we're 18 months in and you've got a plan in front of us. I don't agree with everything in the plan. It doesn't matter because there's compromises that have to be made. We like some things, or some things I want that aren't here. There are some things in here I don't want. It doesn't matter. We can't keep going over and over and over and over. And there are limits to how much I think we should be spending. And I think we're there. I don't want to put a $150 million, $200 million, $300 million bond in front of people. You've got a plan. You're the administrator. It's our job to support that plan within the confines of the values and the time that we've been circling here. I'm ready to move forward. Everybody's waiting for us to come to a decision on facilities and move forward. So let's do that, please.
Are there any other questions? Okay. So, Dr. Rogers, you've answered a lot of the questions, and then it sounds to me, and please, do you have questions? Oh. And that the best recommendations that you presented to the board is the Proposition 1 and Proposition 2, and in terms of the gym space, these two schools they need it the most, and I would love to give every school a new gym if possible, but we do have some constraints, and then it does sound like the Bayless and Robbins Lane, they are next on the list, but then for now they still have room to grow. And this is more to the board, if we are going to do the bond vote in September, it does look like we have to sort of finalize the scope of the work. I am not sure if we are all ready to do, to take on those two the recommendations that Dr. Rogers provided with us, which is the Prop 1 and Prop 2. Because, okay, Ms. Falco? Yeah.
So I fully agree with Jack that we need to make a decision to move on. I think that's okay. I think the people are waiting for us and that we absolutely need to decide tonight and move on. I'm not sure how many people want to add the Robbins Lane and Bayless gym space on. Maybe it's only a couple of us. Maybe it's enough people. If we wanted to add that gym space on tonight and then approve Proposition 1 and 2 and move on, could we do that without further discussion? I mean, maybe I'm the only one who wants to add the gym space, but can we say like we want to add Robbins Lane and Bayless on also, and then approve Proposition 1 so that we're ready to go? Is that a possibility?
So again, I would love every school to have everything. Is there a plan or even a thought yet on what gyms at Robbins Lane and Bayless would look like right now? Would we be replacing the existing gyms or putting a new gym behind it and somehow converting the existing gym into cafeteria space maybe?
So it's not something that I've asked the architects to work on recently. As you'll recall, in 2018, there was a proposal to create Syosset Park on the site of the former landfill and put 600 residential dwellings there. So we worked with H2M at the time to come up with additional space for both South Grove and for Robbins Lane. The South Grove plans won't work because they involved having the developer give us a right-of-way to some of that property for busing purposes. So that plan, is unworkable. But the Robbins Lane plan did include an additional wing for classrooms and an additional gym space. So it's a very preliminary kind of sketch, and I think I'd have to go back and ask them to dust it off, since that makes it 6 years old at this point. But we did, and we published a drawing for Robbins Lane back in 2018 as part of our SEQR response when the developers were going through the SEQR process. So we don't have any plan that has ever been on the drawing board for additional gym space at Bayless. That said, Bayless is probably the easiest site of all of our sites to work on because the property is perfectly level and it's 16 acres. So there's a lot of room to maneuver there. But I don't have anything. I would look to our architects or Mr. Reed from Elite to give us an estimate, but I'm imagining it will be in the ballpark of the estimates for the other building, the other gyms.
Mr. Rotolo?
I don't want to repeat myself, but I think this is very important to keep in mind that this budget number is not the total budget, because we also get construction aid, which from our district has went up tremendously. When I first got on the board, I think we were getting 18% return. Now I think we're up to 42%. So everybody needs, and maybe Dr. Rogers, you could better explain it than I can, about the importance of us getting reimbursed from the state.
It is an important point. When I started working for Syosset, we were getting about 16 cents on the dollar from the state for every, for construction. Last year it was 40.6%. That was our high water mark. It went down into 39% somewhere, Dr. Rufo, yeah, 39%. So, right now we're in a very favorable period for state reimbursement. It looks like that period of favorable reimbursement may start to taper off. So there's an advantage, obviously, to having the state shoulder as much of the costs as they possibly can. So right now it looks like this is the optimal time to get reimbursement from the state.
So two things. First, if we finalize the scope of work today and we follow this process in September, do we lock in that state aid rate number, or is it when we do the work and it could vary? And then my other point was, we keep saying gym space as something we want to add, but in reality, it's the gym space, redoing the gym space gives the schools that want, so Berry Hill and Walt Whitman are experiencing very high growth, and they absolutely need it. But some of the schools have been dealing with some of the problems that Berry Hill and Whitman have been dealing with, and that's really why when I say adding gym space, I'm really, while it has a big benefit because we have the ability to build a gym, it also allows a better all-purpose room. It also allows the OT, PT, and speech people to have classrooms. It also allows music to have what they need. So all of the things that we are doing them for Walt Whitman and Berry Hill are still maybe a little bit less of a constraint, but still a constraint in these other schools. So we say gym space, but we really mean the same spacing issues that are prevalent throughout the community. Those are my two.
So I'll ask Dr. Rufo to answer the question about state aid, because it's a little complicated and she'll go through it with precision.
State aid starts being generated when you close out a project. And state aid is calculated based on the cost of the project, the cost of debt service, and that is what your percentage of your building aid is is measured against. So that's the percentage. I guess we could call it a reimbursement, and you get it in the years as soon as you've finished out closing your projects.
So, Dr. Rufo, that's when we receive it. Do you know which aid year they use for the percentage? Is it at the time of bond approval, or is it at the...
It adjusts your building. There's different tiers of projects, but all of these projects would be in one, and it adjusts each year in accordance with your aid for that year. And so that's why borrowing sooner is more advantageous when our aid is higher.
So, just so I understand, when you take out the bond, that's when you get the aid percentage?
We're able to borrow once our projects are approved by the state. And then we borrow the money and we start the projects. The projects do take some time from when you borrow and from when the construction is finished. And once the construction is finished, that's when the aid starts flowing.
With that in mind, we're assuming it's 39%. Is that because that's what it is today and we don't know where it will be when we finish the project? Is that, we're just...
That's correct. We get a state aid percent that's calculated as part of our state output reports.
I mean, to the extent it's worth me trying to wrap up my thoughts, I guess what I would say is, you know, I originally remember talking about trying to stay under 100 million, and I feel like you did that with Proposition 1. I feel like a total bond of 124 million and putting that out to the public is a pretty daunting number. So, I mean, I haven't agreed with everything you've ever put in front of me, but this is one of the few that, this is one of the many that I have agreed with. So I would support this scope of work now for the purpose of trying to get this approved. I worry that some of the ideas that have been brought up tonight, although wonderful ideas, are not the kind of things we can analyze in the next 2 weeks. And God knows there's a bunch of things I'd love to see in here as well, including some of the stuff we talked about tonight. I just don't see how spending 2 or 3 more months to get this done is advisable. So that's where my head is right now, but as you can tell by my tone, I'm probably easily convinced.
Dr. Rogers or maybe Dr. Rufo, do you off the top of your head know what the largest bond we've ever tried to float is?
We've only done one since I've been here. I think there was a 20-year drought before that. And Dr. Rufo, do you recall what the...
The last one that we did was 45.
Okay, so the last bond that we did was 45, and we haven't done another one for 20 years before that. The only other question I have for you, Dr. Rogers, is you went through the feedback that we received in the thought exchanges. Would you say that the largest, I mean, I see what's listed here in terms of the questions that were asked. Number 1 was cost estimates. Number 2 was construction safety. Number 3 was bidding transparency. And number 4 was tax impact. So I'm making an assumption that the bidding transparency was related to making sure we got the lowest cost related to what we were asking for. So the predominant numbers of questions that we're getting are about how much this is going to cost in some form or another. And now we're going back with the largest bond that we've been contemplating, and now we're contemplating making it bigger on the back of things that are desirable, but you've optimized to the things that we need. in the short term, with the option that in the future we can continue to expand. So I think you've done the job we've asked you to do. I just think it's time for us to now finalize that job with what's in front of us.
So, if I'm hearing this correctly, there is a cost benefit to adding the 2 other gyms and doing them now as opposed to years from now, correct?
Just through the operation of inflation, they'll be less expensive today than they might be at some point in the future.
Then I would absolutely support adding the other 2 schools here and getting an estimate as soon as possible.
Okay. Dr. Park?
I know we're pressured for time and we want this to get going, get a move on, but we are talking about $125 million plus, and I think all of us have to feel very confident in certifying this and say, yes, we're gonna go with this. If we have to meet another time, make a special meeting so we can discuss more, I think that would be better than just go, this is enough time that we spent, because we didn't discuss it every month. We discussed it for past 18 months, but we didn't discuss it enough, obviously, because we are at this point and feel like, okay, it's taking too long, we gotta rush and get a move on. We should feel comfortable putting something that we all can at least understand and agree. Not even if we don't agree 100%, at least understand in confidence.
Ms. Falco?
Just a couple points. First of all, I wanted to say that I agreed with Shani about the PT, OT being a priority, which is, again, what Lynn said also with the gym space opening it up. So I did want to clarify that that was part of the reason why I wanted the extra gym space, because I agree it's a priority. Secondly, to Jack's point about the fact that we haven't taken a bond in so long and that we took so few, I think actually is reflective of why our facilities are in the shape that they're in, and perhaps we shouldn't wait so long and put it as such a low priority that now we're in a position where everything needs to be redone and we're out of space everywhere, that perhaps if we are more proactive in doing it, then our facilities will be maintained and that we can get ahead of it so that we're not in 20 years, 30 years, we're not in this position again. We don't want to constantly be with facilities that are crumbling and not up to where we need them to be and aren't at the SIASIT standard. So perhaps the fact that we've taken so few bonds and haven't put any money into facilities is indicative of why we need to do stuff now. And also just to Shani's point, I fully agree time is of the essence and that we need to get it done. If we do a special meeting, I don't know how long you need to get the estimates if we wanted to add the other 2 gyms. Like if we were to put a meeting in a week on the schedule to just come in to see the costs and then vote on Proposition 1 and Proposition 2 so we could move forward in a week, is that a doable thing? How long do we need just to get, estimates of those 2 gyms so we could say, we can meet next Monday and say, okay, the gyms are going to add an extra $6 million for both gyms, and we're going to say yes or no and then move forward.
So, Mr. Reed, you've been patient. Mr. Reed from Elite Construction is our construction manager and he works closely with H2M, our architects. They design something and Mr. Reed tells us how much it will cost to build. I think if I was to ask you to estimate how long it would take you to come up with an estimate for an additional gym, Mr. Reed, what do you think in terms of timeline?
Good evening. I think as far as we're talking about as far as timeline, if you're going to be able to meet on Monday, Tuesday of next week, we'll be able to work towards that with H2M as far as coming up with the amount of square footage and other different things we'll need to define in that scope of work. But we would work towards getting that done to help the SIASA board.
Okay. we've heard a lot from the board members, and then I do see that looks like we do want to entertain, having to get more information about the 2 additional gyms. And then I know we are under the time pressure, but I do not want to rush this because we've already spent so much time going back and forth with architect, and they're wonderful, absolutely wonderful. And the administration, not to mention, spend a ton of time. So with these last step, I would like to spend the time to explore these options and then bring it back to the board, and then we can take it from there.
So along the way, Dr. Rogers, we've asked you multiple times to reach out to various stakeholders, like building leaders. And I'm hearing tonight about gyms at 2 additional schools. Is it worth making sure that's what is wanted at those 2 schools? If we're talking about, I don't want to make this more difficult on our architects to come up with a plan, but I'm wondering if one or both of those schools need more space, is it always going to be gym space? And are we talking about expanding the size of the gym or adding a second gym? I just want to, since it sounds like this is going to be a complicated next step, I just want to make sure that, we're all in agreement tonight that if we're looking at 2 additional schools to address enrollment growth, that it may not just be a gym, or it may be a gym and then the reconditioning of an existing gym into something else. I don't want the plan to just be we're putting a gym in the field.
Now, your point is well taken, and I'll kind of circle back to where we started this conversation. The gyms ultimately are a metaphor for square footage. The buildings need square footage. In some buildings, it makes a lot of sense to build a gym because it frees up all kinds of other square footage that then gets repurposed. So we have not looked at those 2 buildings, at least Robbins Lane we haven't looked at for 6 years. Bayless I haven't looked at for a gym at all. So that has to be part of the consideration. I think in a week I can give you an estimate for what it would cost to build a gym, but we'll also spend some time this week thinking about whether that's the optimal way of solving for square footage necessarily. But I'll come back and tell you, like, if you're making this kind of an investment, what are your options for how to make an investment? Let's say it is in the neighborhood of $5.5 million. It's a gym and some repurposed space, or it is X, Y, and Z instead, and it's a choice for the board.
All right, are we all good with that? For Dr. Rogers to bring us back some more information? Okay, all right. That closes the discussion for on the facilities, and then the next item on the agenda is the unfinished business, which is the process for selecting a new mascot. And Dr. Rogers has briefed us in. I'm sorry. Go back to wait.
All right, and the next item is the process for selecting the new mascot. As Dr. Rogers mentioned, that we would have to, the deadline to do that will be June 30th, 2025. And now that we are pretty much done with this school year, so we really just have one more year left. And with that, does anyone have any questions, for Dr. Rogers, or does anyone want to talk about this?
Just working backwards, I just wanted to understand the best time to start, when we would have to start transitioning the gyms and start putting in a new thing so that we can work backwards from there for timeline. And is this because it's surveys and community members, is it something that we can start in the summer, or does it have to wait till September?
So what a lot of districts have done is they've started a process by just basically opening a portal of some kind. So imagine an email address that you can send your ideas to, mascot@syossetschools.org. And you can start that tomorrow if you want. The question will be, where do those ideas go? So you need some sort of a mechanism for narrowing down all the ideas. So you'll have hundreds of ideas, and you need to start discarding some of them as unworkable, some will be inappropriate, et cetera. You're going to have some group that does that. So typically, that's been a committee of some kind. You can constitute that committee whenever you want, but it'll be hard. If it's going to be a committee that meets in person, it'll be very hard for them to do their work in the summer. But you can certainly collect names all summer long so that the committee has something to work with when they get started in the fall. I dismissed our architects. I guess I could have asked them how long it would take to do the work. But my own feeling is that if we're working diligently towards compliance with the regulation and we're in need of a little bit of grace at the end, I think the state would grant us that grace. I feel confident that that's how the state would approach something like this. I think they would be more concerned about foot dragging, but they wouldn't be concerned about someone that's making a good faith attempt to get there, but also trying to be fiscally responsible.
I just wanted to talk in terms of who's on the committee. So I think that it's very important that we open it up to everybody. I fully understand that we can't have a committee that has 500 people on it because it's, you can't do anything that way, it won't work. But I think at least initially, we should see who has interest in being on the committee and then figure out how many people actually volunteer, and it should be opened up, in my opinion at least, to students, current families, alumni, faculty. It should be opened up to everybody, and then we could see who's truly interested in it, and then we can figure out how to narrow down that number if we need to. I feel like a lot of committees, we invite the same people onto it, and other people want to have an opportunity to join the committees, and they don't always have that opportunity. And so I think that it's important that we open it up to everybody and see what we're dealing with, and then figure out how to narrow it down. Just my 2 cents.
To Ms. Falco's point, I think that we have 2 things we need to address in my mind, and I know everyone may have other things to say, but we need to make sure no one says that they weren't involved in the process. That's okay. I think we just need to make sure that no one can say at the end of this that they didn't have a say. Like, we got to come up with every possible group of stakeholders and make sure they're involved. And then the second point, and something maybe we can do over the summer, not asking people to work over the summer, developing the statement of values and attributes. That's something we should be doing that anyway. That would be a great exercise to talk about what our values are here in Syosset. But I know a lot of the frameworks for coming up with new mascots start with putting together that statement, and then the committee uses it to sort of go forward with the process. So that would be a great first start. So that's really all I've got to add.
Ms. Dostrick.
Sure, Dr. Rogers. Can I just ask what it is that you're asking of us to give you in this discussion? Like, at the end of this discussion, the thing that's going to be useful for you is what?
I think what I need from the board is a sense of how you want to start the process and how you want to end the process. And I can work backwards between those 2 hard points to design what belongs in between. So in other words, if there's going to be a committee, who do you decide is on that committee, and how much authority does that committee have? So ultimately, this is the board's decision, as all things are. So how much of the board's authority do you want to delegate to this committee? I need direction from the board on that. And then in the end, every process I've seen has narrowed the choices down to 2 or 3 when all is said and done. And then there is a selection process among the 2 or 3. In some places, the selection process was limited only to students. In some places, the selection process was some kind of a community vote. Not sure how it was managed, but a community vote. In some places, the process was the committee was responsible for narrowing the two to one. So what I need direction on is the decision-making process of who is the committee and what is the committee's authority, and at the other end, how do you want to tie this up at the very end when you get to a place where we're down to the very last candidates?
Ms. Gauchier?
So answering your questions, Dr. Rogers, for the beginning, to start the process, I think we have to get the word out to as many people as possible, because right now there's, you know, a small amount of people within the schools, and the parents, obviously, in the sports world, the immediate sports world, know about it. But I'm concerned that if we're just sending an email out to those people and getting it out just to the schools, that we're going to be missing a lot of people. So I know it's costly, but if we can look towards doing possibly a mailer so that it actually reaches the most amount of people and businesses and whatnot in the district, I think that would be helpful, because those people can get the word out to other people, you know, that are out there, kind of like a chain. So in my opinion, the first step is to get as many people notified of what's going on as possible outside of our circle. And then the committee has to be set up. In my opinion, I think it should be student-driven. I think we have a wonderful student government at the high school that is more than capable of spearheading a pretty decent student-based committee, and then have maybe a separate committee for the adults, and then get some representatives from the two committees together to discuss. It's just an idea. But just to kind of move things along. And then in the end, I agree, narrow it down to a few. And in my opinion, again, we have all the different sports groups within Syosset. We have our own sports groups within the district. And then we have all of our, you know, our coaches, our leaders, you know, whoever, we'll figure it out, I think, in the end, as far as the voting process. But I just think we have to make sure everybody knows about it, so nobody's left in the dark. As far as, I have another question for you, because I know it's been a while since we discussed this, and I know we asked this, but I don't remember your answer. As far as any facilities work that needs to get done regarding the change in mascot, so that would be like the scoreboard, the end zone has to be changed, things in the school and whatnot. We're not going to get any state aid, if I remember correctly, right? The state won't help us with any of the funding. So if I'm correct in that, where do we get that funding from? Because now we're in the midst of these facilities projects. I don't know what the cost is going to be to rectify everything that's going to go along with the change of the names, uniforms, and all this stuff. So do we have a roundabout number from a year ago or a year and a half ago? And where would we be getting that funding from? Sorry, I gave you a lot of...
No. So one of the things that happened was the state lowered the threshold for eligibility for state aid to, I believe, $10,000, Dr. Rufo, for mascot-related projects. So the state did decide that they were going to be a partner in helping school districts pay for some of that cost. So in the same way that we would get almost 40 cents on the dollar for other kinds of construction, typically these projects wouldn't be large enough to generate state aid, but they lowered the threshold down to $10,000. So that will cover things like the replacement of the end zone, which we were estimating in like the $75,000 range for that end zone. Things like the scoreboards actually will be less challenging than they might appear at first. Apparently, you can purchase magnetic overlays, and so we'll get the new overlay fabricated, and then it just goes over the existing scoreboard. So some of that is more straightforward. Mr. Stuber has been thoughtfully already turning over uniforms. So as we're buying new uniforms, he's buying them with just the Varsity S branding on it so that they would be compatible with whatever future mascot we decided to use. There is some gym padding on the walls and things like that. The weight room has some branding on the weights in the weight room. So there are other projects to work on. We've been going through and trying to estimate. Dr. Rufo, do you remember a ballpark number for all of these things together?
Sorry, I don't remember in total. I do remember the 75 was the the material number. And we've been, as you said, replacing things along the way, the smaller items.
So things like the scoreboard overlay, I remember as being like in the neighborhood of $1,000, not, crazy kinds of numbers, but not zero. Again, the biggest thing is going to be the end zone on the field.
Dr. Park?
I agree with Lisa 100%. I think our students are wonderful in their creativity and their ability to come up with things that just blows my mind. And I would like the students to be the majority of that committee. It doesn't matter how many people we have, but I would like to have more percentage of students. I would like to see more percentage of students than community members. I think it's important that they don't get smaller or in terms of their opinions, because there are people who are older who have more authority to quiet them. So I would like to have larger student body to support one another and spearhead the committee. And I would like to see the mascot to be used outside of athletic teams too. We have a lot of teams, clubs and other competitive teams, academic teams. They could use it too. It doesn't have to be just athletic, right, logo. I would like our students to be able to use it in various different teams. And did we talk about resolution to submit to New York State Board Association in regards to having the state assist us? Brian, didn't we talk about something like that when we were going to submit the resolution?
We did. We ended up not having to because they lowered the threshold to 10,000, so we should be able to push most through. But I mean, that doesn't mean I wouldn't want them to pay 100% of this because they made us do it, but it's not necessarily as expensive as it may have been when we first talked about this. But you raise a good point.
When you talk about students, just make sure that it's not just the high school students, because I'm sure other students within the district would like to be involved in the middle, and I don't know about elementary, if that's helpful or not helpful, but they should be involved in some way too.
And to throw on that, we should absolutely include alumni and faculty. I think Anna said absolutely in response to that.
So I view this process as phase 1 and phase 2, right? So as Lisa said, we need to get the word out immediately, and I would absolutely be in favor of mailer. Yes, it costs money, but I think it's critical, in this case, when we effectively, again, I said it before, did away with the 50-year-old name. Every stakeholder in this town should know that they're welcome to the table. They should know this is happening. So I would absolutely create, just like I believe Brentwood did, it's right there on their website, separate page with links. We should utilize social media. We should utilize every organized, whether it's cultural groups, associations in town, athletic associations, civic associations. I mean, I'm sure you have the list, and perhaps, take advantage of their email list, because again, every time we're talking about email blasts, we're limited to the current school population. And so alumni absolutely have to be invited to the table if they're interested in discussing it. So yes, I mean, ideally, we would like to gauge the level of interest out there. But again, to do that, people need to know that we're talking about this today. And very few actually follow. So, you know, I just want to make sure that at the end of this, you know, no one comes out and says, you know, I didn't know about this. When did you decide that? And so as much as I admire our current students, their current students, this is a process, you know, especially phase one, which is the name, narrowing down for the name, has to belong to this community. And then phase two, what? Phase two is the logo. For that phase, yes, that I see more of a current students, a kids' participation. That's my 5 cents.
So Dr. Rogers, I thought I heard you say what you're looking for is the management of the organization and then the decision about how the votes will be tallied at the end. So I want to echo everybody's point of view about participation being wide and that we should get as many folks involved in participating in the decision-making by giving input to the people who are going to be in charge of coming to the conclusion, because ultimately there needs to be a group that's delegated that authority. From my point of view, I happen to agree that I think the students, and I assume there's some combination of organizations that students can be in charge of. Maybe there's an alliance of student organizations that can form the basis of the committee. And then there can be some participation on the committee from others, but that doesn't mean that participation from the wide community doesn't get involved in the decision-making. I actually think that at the end, when we're doing voting, that's ultimately comes down to everybody participating equally. So to me, the decision-making at the end that you're looking for is a community-wide tally so that people are participating from beginning to end, but in terms of the questions that you asked, those are my answers.
Okay, and for this, I do want the community to get involved, whether it's faculty, alumni, or students, and it is very, because this belongs to them, and then they need to be part of this process. And then as far as the what Mr. Greco mentioned earlier about the statement, the values, and also the mascot attributes, if possible, we can start working on that in the summertime, and then when the students return, and then we can get that going in September, because we also have the facilities. So this way, for both of them, I hope we can get that process started as soon as possible. And then in terms of the surveys, and that survey should really, when the committee gets to some sort of a conclusion, and then we send the survey out, so we don't keep sending the surveys out, because at the end we'll probably get less and less participations and the votes, because this belongs to the entire community, not just the schools or the sports team. For the votes, that would go out to the community, and whoever votes. At least we include everyone in this process. And then when it comes to the logo development, I think we have very, very talented students, and we can ask them to submit artwork and all of that. And again, and I think this is going to engage the student body even more that way. So that's just for me. Okay. Ms. Koshia?
Just a quick statement. I think community input is very valuable, alumni and everybody that we've discussed, in my opinion, and just something to think about, because we are far from the voting process of the end of this. In my opinion, as much as the mascot belongs to the community members, the school, especially the high school and the sports teams, are the, let's say, the representatives that are out there with these uniforms, with the chants of the Syosset, whoever we're going to be. So, in my opinion, when we get towards the end of the voting, I think it's important for the students to feel like a sense of empowerment that they had the final choice to pick how they want the future of the Syosset students to be represented. I think it gives them a tremendous point in history of that class being, these students being the students that rebranded Syosset in a sense. So I love the community input, and I think the alumni and everybody will be happy to give input and have great ideas. But just something for everybody to think about, that when we get towards the end of that, I think the kids would want to feel that sense of, like, I don't know, like little check mark on history for the school. So just a thought.
The student will still be part of this process. So it's just expanding it to a broader community. So this way, the students, they can still have the ownership of having, be part of the, I guess, the historical moment. Okay, so, okay. All right, anyone else with anything to add to this? So Dr. R, with all the board inputs, do you need anything else from the board?
No, so thank you for your conversation and discussion. The team and I will put together a plan that will be our attempt at distilling this conversation, and then we'll share that plan with you, and if you're comfortable with it, we'll start to execute it right away.
Moving on to new business, and that's the 8 items. A1 is the appointment of interim director of secondary special education. Can I have a motion, please? Dr. Park, seconded by Ms. Koshia. Are there any questions? All in favor? Opposed? Any abstentions? A2 is the appointment of assistant superintendent of human resources. Can I have a motion, please? Mr. Greco, seconded by Ms. Falco. Are there any questions? All in favor? Opposed? Any abstentions? A3 is the appointment of Assistant Superintendent for People Personnel Services. Can I have a motion, please? Dr. Parr, second by Ms. Abramson. Are there any questions? All in favor? Opposed? Any abstentions? A4 is the appointment of Assistant Superintendent for Secondary Curriculum, Instruction, and Assessment. Can I have a motion, please? Mr. Greco, seconded by Ms. Levitan. Are there any questions? All in favor? Opposed? Any abstentions? A5 is the appointment of Assistant... A5 is also the appointment of Assistant Superintendent for Elementary Curriculum, Instruction, and Assessment. Can I have a motion, please? Mr. Greco, seconded by Mr. Ostrick. All in favor? Opposed? Any abstentions? I was too excited. Congratulations. A6 is the approval of the appointment of staff changes. Can I have a motion, please? Dr. Park, seconded by Ms. Abramson. Are there any questions? All in favor? Opposed? Any abstentions? A7 is the approval of a medical examination of school district employee. Can I have a motion, please? Mr. Greco, seconded by Ms. Levitan. Are there any questions? All in favor? Opposed? Any abstentions? A8 is the approval of 2024-2025 stipends and hourly rates. Can I have a motion, please? Dr. Park, seconded by Ms. Koshia. Are there any questions? All in favor? Opposed? Any abstentions? A9 is the approval of unaligned staff employment agreement 2024 to 2025. Can I have a motion, please? Ms. Falco, seconded by Ms. Levitan. Are there any questions? All in favor? Opposed? Any abstentions? A10 is the appointment of summer guidance counselors. Can I have a motion, please? Dr. Park, seconded by Ms. Koshia. Are there any questions? All in favor? Opposed? Any abstentions? A11 is the appointment of driver education staff 2024-2025. Can I have a motion, please? Mr. Greco, seconded by Ms. Falco. Are there any questions? All in favor? Opposed? Any abstentions? A12 is the approval of settlement agreement. Can I have a motion, please? Ms. Koshia, second by Ms. Falco, Ms. Abramson. Are there any questions? All in favor? Opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. B items. B1 is the appointment of the Committee on Preschool Special Education. Can I have a motion, please? Ms. Koshia, second by Ms. Abramson. Are there any questions? All in favor? Opposed? Any abstentions? B2 is the approval of Committee on Preschool Special Education minutes. Can I have a motion, please? Ms. Levitan, second by Ms. Falco. Are there any questions? All in favor? Opposed? Any abstentions? B3 is the appointment to Building Subcommittee on Special Education. Can I have a motion, please? Dr. Park, seconded by Ms. Abramson. Are there any questions? All in favor? Opposed? Any abstentions? B4 is the appointment of Section 504 Committee. Can I have a motion, please? Mr. Greco, second by Ms. Falco. Are there any questions? All in favor? Opposed? Any abstentions? B5 is the appointment of the Committee on Special Education. Can I have a motion, please? Dr. Park, second by Ms. Koshira. Are there any questions? All in favor? Opposed? Any abstentions? B6 is the appointment to the Out-of-District Subcommittee on Special Education meetings. Can I have a motion, please? Mr. Greco, seconded by Ms. Levitan. Are there any questions? All in favor? Opposed? Any abstentions? B7 is the approval of Committee on Special Education recommendations. Can I have a motion, please? Dr. Park, seconded by Ms. Koshia. Are there any questions? All in favor? Opposed? Any abstentions? B8 is the approval of the certificate of vote. Can I have a motion, please? Mr. Greco, seconded by Ms. Levitan. Are there any questions? All in favor? Opposed? Any abstentions? B9 is the appointment of a Board of Registration for 2024-2025. Can I have a motion, please? Ms. Koshia, seconded by Ms. Abramson. Are there any questions? All in favor? Opposed? Any abstentions? B10 is the approval of the destruction of May 16, 2023 cast ballots. Can I have a motion, please? Mr. Greco, seconded by Ms. Levitan. Are there any questions? All in favor? Opposed? Any abstentions? C items. C1 is the authorization of service contracts. Can I have a motion, please? Ms. Koshia, seconded by Ms. Abramson. Are there any questions? Mr. Greco.
Dr. Rogers, obviously we spent a lot of time tonight talking about costs, and I noticed a couple of revenue items. One I've seen before, but I do see something new. Summer of 2024, Plainview Chinese Learning Center at Robbins Lane is renting space, but I also see Chengxi Inc., summer of 2024. Could you explain what that item is?
Sure, I'd be happy to. So we have rented to Plainview Chinese Learning Center in the past. One of the board's goals has been to try to generate more revenue for the school district, so both of these would be revenue-generating leases. The Chengxi is a robotics program, and students will be doing robotics. So in addition to Plainview, which is a Chinese language and cultural learning opportunity, this would be a robotics program.
All in favor? Opposed? Any abstentions? C2 is the authorization for special education and or nursing contract. Can I have a motion, please? Mr. Greco, seconded by Ms. Levitan. Are there any questions? All in favor? Opposed? Any abstentions? C3 is the authorization to establish limit to fund budgetary reserves for year ending 2023 and 2024. Can I have a motion, please? Dr. Park, seconded by Ms. Koshia. Are there any questions? All in favor? Opposed? Any abstentions? C4 is the approval of a tax anticipation note resolution of Syosset Central School District. Can I have a motion, please? Ms. Levitan, seconded by Mr. Ostrick. Are there any questions? All in favor? Opposed? Any abstentions? C5 is the authorization for insurance policies. Can I have a motion, please? Ms. Abramson, seconded by Ms. Koshia. Are there any questions? All in favor? Opposed? Any abstentions? C6 is the authorization for the duct change order G1. Can I have a motion, please? Mr. Greco, seconded by Ms. Levitan. Are there any questions? All in favor? Opposed? Any abstentions? C7 is the authorization for piggybacking town of Hempstead. Can I have a motion, please? Dr. Park, seconded by Ms. Koshia. Are there any questions? All in favor? Opposed? Any abstentions? C8 is the authorization of rejection of bids. Can I have a motion, please? Mr. Greco, seconded by Ms. Levitan. Are there any questions? All in favor? Opposed? Any abstentions? C9 is the authorization of award of bids for wrestling mats, 59-23-24. Can I have a motion, please? Ms. Koshia, seconded by Ms. Abramson. Are there any questions? All in favor? Opposed? Any abstentions? C10 is the acceptance of donation. Can I have a motion, please? Ms. Valkov, seconded by Ms. Levitan. Are there any questions? All in favor? Opposed? Any abstentions? C11 is the disposal of broken, surplus, and/or obsolete equipment, supplies, and books. Can I have a motion, please? Dr. Park, seconded by Ms. Koshia. Are there any questions? All in favor? Opposed? Any abstentions? Now moving on to audience to the public. I do want to thank everyone for their patience for waiting. We do have a longer than usual agenda tonight. And then before we begin the audience to the public, I just wanted to read some of the new procedures that the board set forth. So parents who wish to speak during the audience to the public must register online to speak in advance of the meeting by 5 p.m. the day of the board meeting. A link to the pre-registration form will be made available on the homepage on the district website and 1 week before the meeting. Persons wishing to address the Board of Education in person during the audience to the public must conform to procedures adopted by the board. Speaker remarks must conform to the following rules. 1, all speakers and observers are required to conduct themselves in a respectful and civil manner in accordance with the rules set by the board. 2, speakers must address the board only, not members of the audience or the audience as a whole. 3, speakers must limit their comments to issues concerning school district operations, school district affairs, or board policy. 4, because of rights protected by the state and federal law, no speaker may speak about an individual student or staff member, nor will the board or administration entertain questions in public regarding collective bargaining, negotiation, personnel matters, student matters, or legal matters. 5, no speaker may speak about decisions involving specific personnel or specific students. If a speaker wishes to address the board concerning the specific personnel or specific students, the speaker may write to the board. 6, speakers may not use epithets, slurs, personal abuse, lewd or obscene speech, profanity, libelous speech, threats, and fighting words or gestures. Any person who violates the rules above will immediately forfeit the balance of their time, the time addressing the board. To be recognized to speak, person must register with their full name and address and attest that they will comply with the rules stated above. In addition, only residents of the Syosset Central School District are permitted to address the board. Each resident will have 4 minutes to address the board. And the board will not permit polling of the board members by speakers. And after every resident wishing to speak had an opportunity to do so, the board and administration may respond to residents' questions or comments. And no residents will be permitted to address the board more than once per meeting. And no one may record another member of the public in a manner that is disruptive or confrontational. And I just want to inform the audience that if these rules are not followed, or if the audience heckles any speakers, I'll give a warning, and then I'll end the audience to the public portion of the meeting. Okay, and with that, the first speaker will be Tanya Getz. Okay, and the second will be Brian Tevet.
First, I'll note a member of the audience is going to record me with my consent. Madam President, in this year's budget hearing presentation, on the slide for elementary education, there was the following item: no place for hate assemblies to nurture our culture of belonging within school buildings. In last month's special Board of Education meeting, which was dedicated to implementing the recommendations of the Anti-Bias Task Force, no place for hate was mentioned 3 times in the peer advisories program, in the elementary curriculum, and in the advisor program at the secondary level. No Place for Hate is a registered trademark of the Anti-Defamation League, also known as the ADL. It is therefore reasonable to conclude that resources and materials for these programs are originating from the ADL. The fact that No Place for Hate was mentioned in the budget suggests that the district is paying money to the ADL for these resources and materials. Even if we are not paying for them, I still object to these resources and materials being used because the ADL is a political organization. For example, in May of this year, the ADL issued a statement objecting to President Biden's decision to pause a shipment of weapons to Israel, and issued another statement which condemned a ruling of the International Court of Justice demanding that Israel halt its offensive in Rafah. In the latter statement, the ADL called the Republic of South Africa Hamas's representatives. Whether any of us agree or disagree with these statements is besides the point. The point is that the ADL is not an educational or benign anti-discrimination organization. It is highly politicized and has a clear agenda. Now, you might be wondering whether the ADL's political agenda influences No Place for Hate, which is usually portrayed as a neutral anti-bullying and pro-inclusivity program. To check this, I visited the noplaceforhate.org website, clicked on resources, and followed a link called Browse Lesson Plans. From there, I found a unit called Contemporary Anti-Semitism, which they say is intended for middle school and high school. From this unit, I downloaded 2 student handouts, which I brought with me tonight. The first handout is titled The BDS Movement. This handout lists all the reasons the ADL does not like the boycott, divestment, and sanctions movement, which is a nonviolent international movement which aims to pressure Israel to end its oppression of Palestinians and follow international law. The handout basically insinuates that this movement is anti-Semitic. It also contains a box titled Countering the Claim that Israel is an apartheid state. This is obviously a matter of opinion and is totally inappropriate for a neutral anti-bullying program. The second handout I brought is titled The New Anti-Semitism and the 3 Ds. This handout purports to explain to students in what circumstances criticism of Israel crosses the line, to use its words, into anti-Semitism. To give you a sense of the flavor of this handout, at one point it lists a bunch of countries which the US does not send any military aid to, and says that if you criticize Israel but do not criticize all these other countries, then you are guilty of a double standard and therefore anti-Semitic. The overall purpose of this handout is to intimidate and silence students who may be sympathetic to the Palestinians and angry at what Israel is doing out of fear that they will be accused of crossing one of the many lines the ADL has drawn and called anti-Semitic. We all know our community has a diversity of viewpoints about the conflict in the Middle East. The ADL's No Place for Hate program is designed to promote one particular viewpoint, that of unconditional support for Israel. No Place for Hate is not consistent with our culture of belonging. It does not foster, to use Dr. Rogers' words from last month, an open dialogue in which people can disagree agreeably. It has no place in Syosset schools, and we need to disassociate from it. Thank you.
The next speaker will be Ibrahim Khaja.
Good evening. I know it's late, it's 11:15. Thank you very much for debating the bond offering. I know it's a lot of money, $125 million. So thank you for your time, and congratulations to Brian, Lisa, and Shani. I understand this year has been difficult, particularly difficult for our district. We've never had to confront the issues that we faced this school year. Hopefully we won't have to again, but we'll see. Although our differences regarding foreign policy and foreign countries may continue to exist, with the right approach, our district's deep wounds may heal. Tonight, let's focus on Syosset, our district's past behavior, and how we can learn from our mistakes. Unfortunately, we've lost sight of where this all started and why we are where we are. At 5:07 p.m. on Monday, October 9th, Dr. Rogers sent out an email about what happened in a foreign country. He deplored the acts of violence and mourned the loss of precious lives. Later that week, there was a moment of silence for the victims who lost their lives on October 7th. Since then, there has not been a single email regarding the loss of precious Palestinian lives. It is not the responsibility of this school district or its employees to send out district-wide emails commenting, deploring, or mourning what happens outside of our district. However, if one feels the need to do so, it would only be just and fair to do so when there are precious lives lost in Palestine as well. Dr. Rogers, can you please explain why some lives are easier to mourn and others aren't? Why did you decide to mourn the lives of some and not others? Why did you feel it was necessary to send an email when approximately 1,000 lives were lost, but not when 40,000 lives have been slaughtered? Thank you.
Okay, this concludes the audience to the public. Thank you.
So the No Place for Hate program is something that SIASA has been a participant in since 2017, when we had a dramatic act of anti-Semitic and other graffiti at the high school. It is something that the district has celebrated ever since. I certainly understand the points that were made. I would also say that we don't use every material that No Place for Hate makes available, but I wouldn't be able to respond at the level of detail of the comments that were here tonight, but I certainly appreciate knowing your thoughts on the subject. Mr. Kwaja, you've made this point repeatedly at board meetings. I've responded repeatedly at the board meetings. I have nothing more to say on the subject.
Okay, meeting adjourned.